Because there's a handful of people actually run everything. That's true. It's provable. Not
It's all
conspiracy.
about control. To them we just cattle, numbers, battling each other while they creeping in the shadows, scheming, plotting, clocking your every move, locked in your mind, brainwashed until it's rocking. Got the population operating as they want them, symbolically mocking them, thinking nothing can stop them. So open your eyes to the lies of the evil, the poison in the minds and the lives of your people. And every time they lead you down a line to deceive you, and by then it's always too late to see through the veil that they hide behind, cause your third eye is blind. Better take a stand, we running out of time. Ain't nobody coming to save us, fuck what you had in mind. Arm yourself with the truth and jump behind the battle line. Can we turn it around? Yeah, it's possible. Divided we'll all fall, but united we're unstoppable. This is for the world, this is for the masses, attached to the strings being pulled by puppet masters. This is for the youth, searching for the proof, keep on looking for the clues, I'll provide you with some truth. This is for the ones waking up from the spell, beginning to discover themselves. Yeah, this is for the youth, searching for the truth, keep on looking for the clues, I'll provide you with some proof. Hey yo, the stage is set, the game is rigged, the system isn't broken, it was designed this way, and only the blind obey, give their mind away to these political, parasitical, cynical, criminal-minded individuals, getting you to surrender your freedoms to the hands of the state, with every boogeyman they create, playing they order out of chaos in order to enslave us, distorted our brains to morally degrade us, faces off against each other while they move the pieces on the global chessboard, directing the hordes. I don't come to bring peace, I was sent with a sword, a truth to get you mentally ready for war. Step forth if you got the balls to call out these tyrants, or submit your compliance through silence, cause in this filthy system ain't a single soul to trust. It ain't right versus left, it's a state versus us. This is for the world, this is for the masses, attached to the strings being pulled by puppet masters. This is for the youth, searching for the proof, keep on looking for the clues, I'll provide you with some truth. This is for the ones waking up from the spell, beginning to discover themselves. Yeah, this is for the youth, searching for the truth, keep on looking for the clues, I'll provide you with some proof. This is for the world. Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to another edition of A Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth. I am your host, James Cordiner, and as you can see on your screen, there have been a couple of little changes here. I have constructed a new logo. OBS is a little different this week. It looks kind of neat. Yeah, I mean, not much has been going on this past week in my little neck of the woods, but it's been a fun week nonetheless, trying to get through and just live day to day here and try to, make a difference as much as we can and everything. Been going through it and actually coming up on in the next couple of weeks. See, I don't really have the mind where I keep track of this, because in the past, when I kept track of this, I always failed. So it's been a tug of war battle with me for over a decade now. What I'm talking about is sobriety. Addiction and drug abuse has been something that I've had to try to figure out for just about, about 15 or 16 years of my life. And geez, I've never had I guess it's been almost a year now since I had my last drink. It's been a few years since I had my last drug. It's actually been a good handful of years since then, but drinking was always a problem for me. And it kind of occurred to me that, maybe there's a lot of other people out there that are hip to these topics of anarchy and natural law and everything that might also be struggling. Now, we can't really tell people what to do with their bodies. It's kind of antithetical to the whole point of what we're trying to teach and what we're trying to learn. But we can be that support system for somebody that sees a problem within themselves. I reached out to a couple of gentlemen that, synchronistically, I started listening to one of their podcasts recently, and this topic has been on my mind, and I wanted to talk about it. And like I said, synchronistically, I kind of got into one of these gentlemen's podcasts, and I had no idea. But he's gonna he that's up for him to share tonight. But it's appropriate for him to be here. His name is Johnathan Wright, and I also reached out to my boy Joe Murray, because longtime listeners of this show will know that it was actually something that I heard Joe Murray say on a podcast that really sank in and made me really think about what I was doing to myself and to the people around me. So without any further ado, let me bring these guys in and we can start this conversation. All right, guys. So how's it going?
Good,
Good, man.
So,
It's good. Thanks for having me on, James.
yeah, not a problem. So
Yeah,
people
it's
people
good to
know
meet both of you
Joe.
guys.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too. People
Yeah.
know Joe, and well, maybe some people that know you, Johnathan, that are here tonight. But there's probably some people out there that don't know you. So why don't we get to know you first? What's up,
Oh.
dude?
Okay. Not too much, man. It's good to be asked to speak on your show. I'm honored.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Glad to be here. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I just started creating content about 6 months ago. I never really had any idea how to use a computer before that at all. Very, very minimal stuff. And in the course of my crazy story that's happened to me in the past several years, part of it was finding out that I needed to stop what I was doing in Colorado and move out here to South Carolina to take care of my mom. And in doing that, well, I just had a brain fart. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, part of my story is just getting out here and within 3.5 years I've been sober. So I know that's a big part of what I need to discuss here and kind of help people get through. So maybe ask me another question and that'll spark whatever I was going at before, because I know it's in there still, and I'll ember it back into a flame.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have you here, and there are questions a many to be asked tonight, but I would like anyone that's new to the show to also get to know Joe real quick, so we can give him a minute to just kind of, give us a little bit about himself, and then we just naturally, I think we could just start riffing off of each other and have a great time.
I agree.
Joe, what's up, dude?
Well, what's good, brother? Thank you for asking me to come back on, bro. Always love coming on the show. Who am I? I am a hip-hop artist, or what people call a conscious hip-hop artist, bringing the message of true anarchism under natural law principles. And, I try to explain through my music and through my podcasts the inherent immorality and illegitimacy of having a system of external governance. And I tried to also expose the dark occult influence over this world and over the systems of control in this world. My website is freedomforall.online, where you can find all my work, all the material that I put out on my podcast, my music, merchandise, and I also have a shit ton of just information and knowledge from other researchers, activists, and public speakers on there as well, who have taught me basically all that I know now over the years. So yeah,
That's great. Thank you. But yeah, okay, so Johnathan, you in your show, you speak a lot about sobriety, and I've heard you speak in some detail about some of the struggles that you had. I guess I just want to I gathered us here today to really kind of talk about, what something I mentioned in my monologue, and it's something that I've been kind of going back and forth in my own mind about to what length, to what length can we really go to knock some sense into some people that might be struggling with these things, like watching from the outside in, and like knowing these principles and knowing our boundaries, really what it comes down to. Like what do we do, like how do we
Well,
really like do
I think
that kind
I,
of stuff? What do we
I
have to
think
say about that?
I think the best thing we can do for people a lot of times is just be there, because I I had people there for me, but I was not going to quit until I was ready to quit. And it was explained to me in the form of threat and beg and plead, and all across, and it didn't matter. And I even knew myself, I'm like, you're gonna lose everything. And I was like, yeah, I guess, and it's like, I knew I didn't want to, but I was still doing it. So it's just weird. I don't want to wish the level of what it took for me to change, but I don't think there's any telling people other than to talk about it and get people to hear, that it was a success for me. It was a success for you. People who did have successes, I think, should share those, because that'll inspire people that it is doable. Even if you're at a point right now where you're doing it and you don't want to do it, but you're also not really ready to quit, but you can still hear that somebody was able to, and kind of move from that place of, I wanted to quit, but I wasn't going to I'll do anything to quit. And I don't know really exactly what pushes you into that gap, but I did get pushed there. So, and I knew I wouldn't have ever quit unless I had gotten pushed that far. So I guess ultimately my enabler was like saved my life, which at the time was my fiance. And just the fact that, and she knew she was doing it, and towards the end especially, but I wouldn't have ever been able to get better if I hadn't gotten that bad. And she really enabled me to get like, wow, fully dependent on everybody for everything. And then so once I got kicked out, it's like, wow, I can't do this anymore. I can't live by myself anymore. So
Right.
I had to ask for help. And that was a big part of it, being willing to ask for help. And I had already kind of asked this person for help, and I knew where it went. And the first time it went there, I was like, I'm just not going to do that. They want me to make a list. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And this time when I called him, I was like, I'll make any list he wants. I was willing to do whatever he was going to ask me to do. And in retrospect, that's when, the magical moment, which they talk about in AA, where you don't really know exactly when it happens, but you just kind of get released from the grip of this, like, all I think about, all I can do, all I want is this booze. And I know that that's when it happened, because I look back and I never really wanted it again. And ultimately, it was just that willingness to, like, I'll do anything. I'm getting over this. I'm done with this. And it was just in that phone call. And I still bought more booze from then until I quit, only 2. But there was never any like big walk into the liquor store and be like, this is the last time, or like that was the last one. It just happened to be that last one I bought was the last one I bought. And I never looked back. I never had any kind of what most people call white knuckling moments. I really never had one of those. So that's very weird to me, but that's how it worked out. Just ultimate willingness to just, I need to get rid of this. And that worked. Truth is really what saved me. If you really want to know, it was just telling the truth. Because I lived in such a pool of lies that the only way out was just start telling the truth about everything, telling people stuff that you didn't think mattered if anybody ever found out or knew about, but it was like a dark thing. Oh yeah. That's the start of shadow work. And that's one thing I really appreciated about AA, was that it taught me about shadow work. Of course, it didn't call it that, but
No.
so, but that's what I found out later. Wow, that's what I was doing. How cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I personally know a good amount about AA. It never really worked for me. Like, not to say that, I mean, if anything, I left those meetings wanting to drink more.
Sure.
You
I will say this, and I say this because it's this is how I got better, but it's a cult, and you have to have a good sponsor or it won't work. So, I mean, it is a cult. There's no way around that. And that doesn't mean all cults are bad. I don't think that, but AA is for sure a cult. And I used the cult and got out of it, right? And can still go back to meetings if I choose to or whatever, have no issues with that. But I don't live at the meetings. They don't they aren't what keeps me sane or sober. I'm,
Right.
you know, I figured out very quickly that the drinking and because again, my sponsor was, you have to have a good sponsor or it doesn't work. It won't work. And my sponsor explained to me, he's like, dude, the alcohol is not the problem. The problem is inside you. And the alcohol, when it goes away, now you get to start fixing the problem. And I was like, oh. And he didn't really go into anything else after that, like what I was to do. I figured that out on my own. But it was never the drinking. And he explained that very firmly and every time, all the time. It's the drinking isn't your issue, dude. It's a symptom. It's what's you've manifested this. Wow, I got to drink myself to death because you hate what's going on inside. And when you finally get rid of that booze, you'll be able to sit down and go, oh wow, there are things wrong with me. And it's the people that don't do that go to the meetings and have to go to 4 a week and 5 a week and oh my god, every day because I just can't do it. And it's like, dude, you haven't left kindergarten. You haven't even graduated kindergarten. I look at AA as the kindergarten of spirituality because you have to start from a basic, like, dude, I don't even know myself yet. And then you beg a higher power to just help. And you trust that this is going to work. You have to believe. You really do. It says even in there, you will come to believe that a higher power will help you do this thing. And if you don't, it won't work also. I sat in the rooms and listened to people and they'd go on and on about all these things. And I said, you never once mentioned a higher power. And they said, oh yeah, that thing, it doesn't do that for me. I'm like, well, I don't know about everybody else in the room, but that's integral. And you won't get there without that, at least on some level of comprehension. So anyway, that's my take on AA. I loved it, but I certainly don't think you have to have it to get sober, which some AA people will tell you. But I think if you understand what it is and use it wisely, don't get all trapped into the coffee and the friendship aspect of sharing in a group, that becomes an addiction. And just take it for what it is, get in, fix yourself, and then just step back a little bit. You can still go and be a participant, but don't, friend of Bill Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, it is a cult.
Amen, bro. I fully agree with everything you just said. You absolutely nailed it. Like meetings, like for me, it wasn't my thing. I helped a family member out when they first got clean, and I was already clean for a while at the time, and then I would go to the meetings with them, and it just did nothing for me. And I did see how it was culty, and yeah, like you said, dude, like the work is here. Like the drug use and the alcohol abuse is a symptom of you trying to squash something inside yourself that you don't like or that you can't deal with. Like you're off balance and you're trying to take something in to try to balance you out so that you could cope, because inside you're fucked up. You're not right. You're not content with yourself. And yeah, like as far as the meetings go, it's just people are still looking to externalize their shit when it's really in here. And once the smoke clears and the dust settles, if you're honest with yourself, like you realize, like you said, that your main issue is yourself. Your worst enemy is yourself, and you need to work on yourself. So for me, I decided if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do this on my own, and that's difficult. I mean, I had support as far as like people to talk to that couldn't really like understand what I was going through, exactly, but we're there to support me in any way I needed, financially, whatever kind of support I need, moral support, emotional support. But I did it by myself, and somehow I fucking made it, dude. I went home so I was a heroin addict, right? So I was an opium addict. I started on pills. Well, I've done everything under the sun for many fucking years, man. Coke, booze, to pills, and then to dope ultimately, because I couldn't afford the pills anymore. Didn't shoot it, sniffed it, whatever. People say there's a difference, but doesn't matter. Same shit. Same thing happens when you stop using it, and when you were using it consistently, which is you go through fucking hell. And so I had maybe like a 7-year battle with heroin, on and off, because I got to a point where you know, it's like really the first day when you don't have it and you start to feel like shit and you realize like, holy fuck, I went too far. And you don't realize it until something like that happens. You're like, oh shit, I'm a fucking addict. Like now I need the shit. Otherwise I'm gonna be terribly sick. Like I cannot function. I cannot literally do anything until I get some of this shit in my body. Um, so I had like a 7-year battle with it. My girl that I'm with now, the mother of my daughter, fucking guardian angel, man. Like came into my life at like just the perfect time. Everything lined up fucking just perfectly. At the time I was struggling to get off. I would be clean for a couple of months, then go back. Be clean for a couple of weeks, then go back for a couple of weeks. And you know, I met her in a clean spout, you know, and you know, we became close, instant, you know, immediate attraction, instant love, man. And you know, I was going back and forth using while in the beginning of our relationship and thinking I was fooling her. She knew. She didn't really say anything. Until one day she set up an intervention with my family. Um, so we were out in New York in Long Island with her by her family, and then we were going to see my family out in New Jersey. And she, on the sneak tip, set up an intervention at my brother's house. I go in my brother's house, I go down in the basement. There's my mother there, my father there, my sister-in-law there, my brother there. And I'm like, oh, for you son of a bitch, man. You know, the door shuts behind me. I'm like, fuck. And shit got really, really intense and real as fuck. And that's when it's like, it really like all dawned on me, like how zoned in I actually really was. Like I had no peripheral vision. Everything was like, get fucking high, get the shit to last you for this many days. You're going to make this amount of money. So you'll be good for this long. All you're
Right.
about, dude, when you're on that shit, that is your life. You know, and you have no peripheral vision whatsoever. But it all dawned on me when I saw my mother crying and saw my father upset. I see my sister-in-law crying, and like it fucking hit me like a train. Like, oh my God, I think I'm fooling everybody, you know, and like, man, you know, like just reality hit. And they were telling me they would pay to, you know, to send me away so I could go detox and get like the proper medical treatment and shit. And I just didn't want to do it. I said, no, you know, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this in the comfort of my own home, comfort, if you want to call it that. And, but I was determined, and I'm the kind of dude, and I've always been my whole life. When I set my mind on something and I want to will it into existence, I will do it. I'm not taking no for an answer. So that
Amen.
that night I went back to my mother's house in Jersey, and I went through from there. I went through like 2.5 weeks of fucking hell, detoxing, dude, getting that shit out of my system. I mean, just absolute, just the word, it's undescribable, like what you're going through. You just cannot get comfortable for shit. It's you're burning, but you're freezing. Your legs are aching, restless leg syndrome, headaches, fucking nausea. It is just absolute hell getting that evil fucking shit out of you, man. And have not looked back, dude. And the urge will like always come and go. And it still does, you know. I'm not gonna front, but I haven't looked back. And like I said, I went to meetings after that with a family member to try to help them out, and it just didn't do it for me. A lot of what they say, you know, there's a lot of good advice that's spoken even at the meeting. Some of the steps that they say to follow, like change people, places, and things. Like I definitely am a firm believer in that. If you
Yeah.
always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. So if you
The
expect
definition of insanity.
absolutely, if you expect to be clean going around the same people, around the same places, and these motherfuckers are doing the same shit, how do you expect to better yourself? You know.
Yep.
But so I did it myself, and I realized, you know, when the dust did settle and I got that shit out of my body and I did become clean, that I had like I realized that I've been doing this my whole life, from even smoking weed. And yeah, we know that weed is, you know, cannabis is excellent. It's the number one fucking medicinal plant, you know, on the planet. But still, it's still a substance that alters your mind, right? And then since I was a little kid, 13 years old, smoking weed and drinking and doing coke, I was always doing something to try to, like, you know, squash whatever's in me that I don't want to face. doing it my whole life. So, you know, by the time I got clean, I'm in my late 20s now. It's like, all right, now I got to work on myself and get to the root of what the fuck is really bothering me. That, you know, I always got to turn to substances to try to balance me out for. And it's been a process. And I've done an extremely, you know, I've done extremely hard work on myself over the past decade now. Well, what am I, like 7 years clean? About to be 8 years clean now, I believe. I don't even know. I lost
Right.
count. I don't even like to think. I don't even like to, you know, keep time and keep
Right.
count how long I've been clean. But yeah, man, it's constant work on yourself, and you're never like complete, right? You're always trying to better yourself, and you know, you're always trying to every day you're trying to become a better version of yourself, and you'll slack, you'll fall back, you'll slack for a day or a couple weeks, but it's all about bouncing back up and just keep going at it. But yeah, man.
Yeah, that's really cool that you were able to do that with like kind of by yourself, you know, like on your own terms. And I heard you say that with when you were talking about you're switching your diet and how difficult that was as well. You know, same kind of thing. You just had that attitude of if I set my mind to it, it's just gonna happen. That's just how it is. And you'll do anything if you set your if you have that attitude, you know. Even if it's
Absolutely.
like, yeah, and you have to accept and be okay with the fact that I'm probably gonna fail a little bit, and that's okay. Just keep going, you know.
Right.
So I think
Like
that's a
you
lot.
said, like you went back and bought another beer afterwards,
Yeah,
after
no, well,
coming to your realizations, you bought a beer, and
after I
then
sobered up for a week on the couch and went through a different type of hell that you were explaining, maybe not quite physically painful, but like this weird, like, dude, for 5 days I couldn't sleep but maybe 2 hours a night. And after like the third day of that, you're like, I mean, I'm gonna go insane here. Like it was, I felt like I had been pushed in back into my brain and was like looking through my eyeballs out of. It's such a hard thing to explain, but I felt like I was inside my head driving my body around, and I was pure miserable. And I just wouldn't get in the shower because I just didn't feel like it. So I know I didn't smell it. I couldn't smell it, but my roommate.
poor bastard, your roommate.
Yeah, he was just like, here's a towel and here's some soap and stuff. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. And he was cool with it because he's a 35-year sober, old school AA guy. So he just put up with it. But he mentioned it later and was like, oh yeah, dude, I've never smelled anybody that bad. Oh my God. I was like, really? I couldn't smell it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's just about like like you said, like if you got clean and then you wind up going a week later getting a beer. Like even if you do that, it's not about perfection, right? So even if you do get your shit together and you have that weak moment and you fall, you get back on track, dude. It's not about a one and done and people fuck up. You're only human. It's to be expected. It's just saying, it's not about perfection. It's just about
like I said, it was. I sobered up for a week through hell, and then, like you said, I went and got another. It was a pint of vodka, and I was starting my new job the next day. So there was no way I wasn't gonna like make sure I slept well, because again, I hadn't slept well for 5 days in a row. I'm like, God, I gotta go to work tomorrow, and that was the last one I ever bought. And the next day was October 18th. And that just, so that became my sober day. So I remember that now. But like, again, I don't really keep track. I certainly don't have the days numbered. I know it's 3.5-ish years. But yeah, I'm kind of a big thing on the counting too. Like I didn't even go to a meeting on my 1-year anniversary to get a chip. And my roommate was downstairs and he was like, this is your 1-year day?
Hey, Jonathan, could you reset your microphone again? It's doing that crackling sound that we were experiencing before. I'm sorry to cut you off like this, but I just did it.
No, that's fine. I'm going to have to I'll just reset and come back in the way I did last time.
Okay.
Because that's what I had to do. So I'll pop out of the video for a second, but I'll come right back.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Cool.
None at all. Man, I really hope that somebody watching this, gains that they like find a way to, have it sink in and have it do something good, good for them.
It's not easy. It's not fucking easy, and that's the thing. People don't want to like deal with the consequences that they've set up for themselves, like
right.
They'll make every excuse under the sun, and what it comes down
I know I did. I know I did. It
Oh,
was,
for sure.
oh, my wife's not pregnant anymore. I can go have a drink. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh, this is okay. I just, now,
I'm
oh,
going through this right now. Well, I got to
yeah.
do this,
Oh,
so this is all right. I could do
it's
it.
gonna be fine this time. Oh,
Exactly.
I just went like 10 months without a drink. It's gonna be fine this time because now I'm cool, and I can do it this time. And then it's like 3 weeks later, it's back to the same old song and dance it was before. And it's like,
No.
wow, and then you don't even realize it because, hey, this is what my life has been like for the last decade and a half, I actually, my story's a little weird about my alcohol consumption. Um, Hold on one second. Yeah, it's
Can you hear me now without
yeah,
any? Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
My story is a little weird with alcohol consumption. I don't know if it's like putting the cart before the horse, if that would be the proper saying or whatever. But in my very early childhood, there was a few incidences with me and alcohol and even AA. Like I was at my first AA meeting when I was like 5 or 6 years old. Um, I was brought there by somebody, and I had no idea what it was. I just thought it was a big group of guys that were like all hanging out talking about stuff. And that was like the first time I ever heard the term alcoholic. And I was like, what is that all about? I've been exposed to alcohol my entire life. Every day, my mother would drink, and like she used to make like cocktails, but she stopped doing that because she left one out one time and I thought it was orange juice. And
Mm.
I came running over and I drank it. And I was like probably four,
Oh.
4 or 5 years old. And
Damn.
next thing you know, I'm throwing up all over the place, sick. And they're like, oh my God, oh my God. And, yeah. So it's like later on in life when I finally it's like, oh, well, what are my buddies doing? I go and drink it and everything. It's like, vroom. It's like, it's like, whoa, dude, this is awesome. And now it's like a party thing. And now it's a competition. And now it's like staying up all night. And then it turns into going and getting some cocaine and blowing some coke. And, you know, I will say, like, I had that line, I drew this line, in the sand where it's like, I'm not going to cross it. And it's with needles. I wouldn't stick a needle in my arm. There were people doing it in front of me, offering it to me. And for some reason, I was like, no, there's this part of this like dignity I wanted to keep a hold of. It was slipping through my fingers though, as more time went on. And eventually I did stop going into those scenes where I knew it would be available, because it wasn't that I didn't like the people on a personal level. It was, I knew myself well enough to know only so much time could go on before I turned into, one of those cliche people that you see just going down this rabbit hole of drug abuse, where that needle would enter my arm and that would be it. I'd be dead. I was the embodiment of excess. Like I would drink but like I said, I had these lines that I knew I wouldn't cross, which is odd, but like going to work, and eventually they started to fade because of the industry I was working in at the time. I was a cook, and these lines started to fade, but for a while there, I kept it up. Uh, Switching jobs was definitely a good thing. You know, as much as I hate to admit it, I have a job right now where I get drug tested to keep my driver's license to be able to drive these trucks that I drive. It's not voluntary, and that's a problem for me. But at the same time, it's kind of helped for me to know that I have this thing pushing me to, like, they want me to do it for X reason. I I don't know. I have a problem with some of it, but at the same time, for me personally, it kind of benefits me to have a job where they drug test me. Um, I don't know if that's counterproductive or whatever, counter to anarchy and natural law. But for me right now, like that's actually a pretty good thing. Would I have been able to do it without that? Yeah, I think, because I had this struggle for like many, many years where it was this tug of war where it's like, okay, I'd be sober for a little bit. I'd get off the bottle and put like the Coke down or whatever. I was always an avid pot smoker. And honestly, I don't see a goddamn problem in the world with it. Like Joe was mentioning, it's like a medicine. I really don't see a problem with it at all. In fact, it's a crying shame that it's held in the light that it's in. But like, I mean, shit, man. For years, I when I was a teenager, I like would go and do some of the silliest shit you can imagine, like jumping off of like houses and stuff like that, like just torturing my body, skateboarding around, being the guy that would do just about anything. As silly as it is, it's like I liken it to, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie SLC Punk, with like Matthew Lillard and Jason Segel. Well, in that movie, Jason Segel plays this guy where it's like the caricature of like this punk rock kid that you wouldn't know as a punk rock kid, but get him in the mosh pit and like he's all in like a polo shirt and whatever. And then next thing you know, he just turns, like it's like a light switch. It's like, that's kind of like how I was, where like oh, you don't expect it, but oh, I get a little bit of get a little drunk or whatever, and I'll do whatever. I'll just
Frank the Tank.
yeah, sort of. Yeah, in a way. Yeah, but like it was always a struggle, it's like trying to. I went to some AA meetings. I was in a program for a little bit, and like through the state, I got into some trouble in probation programs, drug schools, all this other crazy garbage, where it's like really all you're doing for a person like me is setting me up with a network that once I'm not under the thumb of the state anymore, guess what? Now I know all these fucking people that can help me get what I want. And like, thanks a lot. And like, that's a big problem I have with the government, actually, is that like they pretend that they're helping, but what they're really doing is they're sowing the oats for themselves in the future by the methods in which they deem appropriate to issue help to people. It's a disguise. It's not real help. And it's really just perpetuating, where it's like, oh, it's a system. They set you up for failure. And I've lived through it, through a very small part of it, very, very easy part of it. But there are tougher parts of it, in my opinion. And in those tougher parts, it's even a quicker turnover rate of just get them in, pretend we're helping, spit them back out, and in 6 months we'll see you again. And they know it. And
yeah, they definitely do. They make it so expensive. They surround you with people of the like. They make you keep coming back for so many months and so many months. And if you mess up one time on your urine, then you're right back in it for a whole new round.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't matter what you're talking about at that point, because I went through the same thing that DUI people went through, and I didn't have anything to do with alcohol. And that's when it became a problem. Like, I got in real trouble because I wouldn't stop drinking. And that's when the state was like, dude, what are you doing? Stop drinking. You know what I mean? They said it kind of like that. They're like, you keep failing your drug tests with alcohol. What's wrong with you? Quit. And I'm like, yeah. And then it got to be like, wow, like, dude, you're like getting like, wow. I didn't have any alcohol classes at first. And then I got alcohol classes. Then I got more alcohol classes. I showed up to my last alcohol class, one of them, and had drank some. And the dude smelled it. And so we passed around a breathalyzer. You can imagine how wonderful of a day that was for me. I mean, it's just wouldn't quit. And so, again, and it was just like, I don't know if maybe some of it was the fact that they told me I couldn't. It's like, oh, well, now I'm gonna. I mean, just the fact that they're like, all you have to do is quit for so long. You can't drink. And I'm like, but why? It had nothing to do with the problem. It's the rules. Well, that was apparently a problem for me, because I made my life that much harder. Until I figured out, wow, this is a real problem. But at least my probation officer was cool and understood. I went through 5 of them, by the way. it was some weird thing going on in my state at the time, and they were just, every time I went, it was a new person. I'm like, this is ridiculous. They don't even know me at all. And then finally, the last one started realizing, like, because I kept lying to her, and then I finally went in and I said, all I do is lie to you, and I'm sorry. And it's a real problem, and I'm gonna quit now for real. And she's like, okay, I believe you this time. I'm like, I actually am telling you the truth this time. I know I've said that before, but like, this one's real. And she hung on with me through it and was proud of me, etc. Whatever. It was pretty cool. So.
Yeah, but you know, like what gives these people any moral authority to take that fucking kind of position? And you know, like at the end of the day, none of this institutionalized fucking nonsense is teaching any moral lesson. It's just about punishment. It's like, you're doing this because we're telling you to do this. We're telling you what you can't put into your own body.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and they put me away for weed, bro. And when I was fucking 14 years old, I spent 28 days in a fucking inpatient for fucking weed because I failed my drug test 3 fucking times. I remember my probation officer. I was on probation for a fight. I beat some kid up and his mother like pressed charges when I was 14, drunk and retarded. And they put me on probation. I failed my drug test 3 times. I remember the probation officer was like the most machine mind. The motherfucker looked like Forrest Gump. And he was like a fucking out of the military, just machine-minded motherfucker. And, you know, 3 times, boom, sent me up into the sticks in New Jersey to a fucking inpatient program for 28 days. Taught me zilch, you know, just nothing. Just, you know, and that's what really gave me like my first dose of like how cold this system really is. You know, like once you go into the court system and you know, like you go into these cold fucking marble halls, you feel like that energy and shit is just like, it's cold, it's heartless. You're dealing with these machine-minded people who are just by the books, doing what they're told, all these order followers down the chain of command or the chain of obedience, right? And they don't care. There is no sympathy for your ass. And that's it. What they're telling you, it's like, you do this or else, you know, you're gonna pay in one form or another. But yeah, like, so what were we talking about? Yeah, like there's no lesson, like the way they, you know, try to say like they're doing this like for our benefit and for our best interest to get us off of drugs. Like, you know, that's bullshit. Like, first of all, you motherfuckers have no right to tell us what we must or must not put into our own body, number one. And number two, I mean, there's ways that even if there were systems in place that were, you know, that were voluntary, like we could have shit like that in an anarchistic society, but with people actually giving a fuck about someone else and not putting them in a cage for fucking using certain substances that people, you know, that other people deem they don't use, you know.
Right.
But with that being said, you know, I want to make this point, like, as we're talking about drugs and, you know, us being anarchists, we you know, we're major advocates of self-ownership, and we say no one has the right to tell you what you know, what to do with your body. You know, we advocate full bodily autonomy and 100% self-ownership for each and every individual. But that does not mean that you know, we advocate that, you know, you use drugs or that you use alcohol. That still is damaging to yourself. Like, yeah, you have the right to do as you please as long as you're not harming other sentient beings, but it's still not the most enlightened thing to do to yourself. I mean, you know, we're not advocates of doing that. You know, you can destroy yourself and then in turn you can harm others. So
Right, because it's like, at what point are you abusing because it's about drug abuse, not drug use, right? That's what we're here to talk about tonight. It's the
Exactly.
abuse, not just
Yep.
just regular old use. And you got to like know, it's about knowing yourself well enough to know when you've crossed that line into abuse. And if you're abusing these things, are you in fact what you're if you're abusing them, what are you doing? Are you like contributing to the dependency that creates the state? That's a good question, I think. That we need to maybe not even try to answer, but that's a good question just to throw out there in the ether. Like, is the state, because we know the state it relies on the dependency issues that we create for it, right? But like through what you guys have been talking about, like the old maxim that you hear in like AA is, you can't help one who does not want to help themselves, right? So it's like what you're saying, Joe, about the state seems like they're force feeding this help down people's throats and stuff like that. It's still like, how does the help even not even work? Well, they don't even want to help themselves. So it even at that level, it still takes a person realizing where they are at, like their position in life and where they're going from that point if they keep it up. And they have to be the ones to decide that they don't want it anymore. I want it to stop. They have to stand up and say, no, no more, and mean it, you know? Like,
Mhm.
I
Like John said before, like like he was warned, he was threatened, and he was just not gonna fucking stop until he was ready. That's the same shit with me. I watched my father go through. I watched my father abuse drugs, and family was torn apart over it. And I had other family members who were addicted as well to dope, and I swore up and down, I ain't touching that shit, no fucking way. And now there was my line in the sand too, was needles and opiates. Okay, I'll go as far as to fucking snort coke and drink alcohol like a beast, but I'm not going to dope. I'm not putting a needle in my arm. I'm not going to sniff dope. um got me. It fucking got me. And one time, and then the thing is, like, people got to understand, like, that shit is not addicting for no reason. Like, the shit makes you feel amazing. And it gets the toughest motherfuckers that'll bring them to their fucking knees. It's a bitch. So is alcohol, so is every other drug. Well, like James said, it's about abuse. There's a balance here. Like, we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater here and say, like, okay, well, like, these are evil substances, like, no one should be using them under any circumstance. Absolutely not. Like, opium can be used for there's many beneficial purposes for opium, such as pain relief and insomnia and anxiety. We all know the medical benefits for cannabis. Unbelievable. And not only just medical benefits, but what we could use, like, on an industrial scale and for construction. I mean, rope and cement and plastics and shampoos. I mean, endless. But even with cocaine, like, I mean, I guess other than snorting it, if that's going to harm the brain and your nasal passage and shit, but they used to prescribe that shit back in the day for certain ailments or whatever, for energy purposes. The whole thing is that if there's a balance there, and if you know yourself, and you know that there's a line that shouldn't be crossed to where you're gonna start to harm yourself, or that's gonna influence you in a negative way, where you're gonna impact others in a negative manner as well. So, yeah. So, a point I want to make is that, yes, I'm an advocate for no one telling you what you can and cannot put into your own body. You and you only own your body. You could drink the fucking shit underneath your kitchen sink for all I give a shit. Is it the most enlightened thing to do? No, and I'm not advocating that. And that's my stance on drugs and alcohol. No, I'm not. I'm totally against people abusing any substances. But I stand firm on that's a lesson that you need to learn yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at it like, well, yes, you're so it's kind of a I'm going to go into the thing here a little bit, but so you are not really allowed to do that to yourself. Just in the same way that you're not allowed to go up and all I did was create hell around me. Even though I thought I wasn't hurting anybody, I was in some way or another because of me. And so, yeah, I feel that, like, natural law and, like, the idea that this is right and this is wrong only really applies if you have a set goal in mind. Like, because you can do whatever you want, and like, it will cause, like, you will get back what you put out there. So if you simply don't care what you get back, then I guess you can do whatever you want. You're never going to get into an enlightened space that way. And again, if that's not a big thing to you, then you know what I mean? That's free will. That's really what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Well,
like,
there's a line that gets crossed. Like, if you are abusing drugs or alcohol, and you know, it's affecting you to where you can't function, and you're now lying to people, you're stealing from
Yeah.
them, you're
Yeah,
defrauding them,
you're bringing
then
other
that
people down.
constitutes you harming other people. You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
if it's just you sitting in a fucking room shooting dope and you ain't, you know, you ain't fucking infringing on anybody else's rights or freedom, then
But your
that-
own,
but
see?
your own,
And so I feel like
but you're not violating
anyone else,
anyone
right?
else's rights but
But I
your
think
own in
we
that
should hold
instance.
ourselves to a same standard as we would treat someone else. Like we treat ourselves 10 times worse than we would treat. I wouldn't go pour alcohol down. I wouldn't make someone become an alcoholic, but I did it to myself. And
Right.
so, yeah, I can do whatever I want because it is my body. But like, I mean, so yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say in that is that we should treat ourselves as if we are someone else in that
Oh,
regard. Like,
I'm
oh my God, I wouldn't ever pour alcohol down someone's throat and make them dependent on it. But
because if you don't have self-love first for yourself, how can you extend that to other people? You can't.
how
You
can you
can't give
extend
away something that
anything?
you don't have. You
Right?
know,
You
so
can't
it needs to
extend
start
anything at
here
that
with
point.
yourself.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right. I like
absolutely.
what, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's
And so that was gonna I was gonna use
whew.
that to kind of maybe answer a part of what you were talking about in your food shifting, and when you were talking about the karma you still had left over potentially for all the meat eating that you've done. And I, again, the way I look at karma, and this is something I've come to more recently, but I just, this is my belief, is that we've been convinced, like the Bible convinced us to eat meat. We've been convinced by other sacred writings that karma is something that just has to be. Now, I'll have to add a caveat to this because what I'm going to say is that ultimately, again, there's no real right and wrong in the highest backed out version of this reality that we're in. This is all experiential. Again, if we have a set goal in mind, then you bet there's right and wrong, and there's right and wrong based on a moral code that's built into our heart anyway. So just because there's actually no way around being able to literally forgive yourself, like I think that at the karmic wheel at the end, like whoever it is that we see that is a personal reflection of the inside, the guardian that tells us, some people will believe it's Jesus, some people, I believe the matrix extends into death, so our beliefs go into that. So if we believe we have to come back to pay for debt, then you will. And there's no law broken there because that's your own choice, but you were conditioned to believe that, but you carried that into death with you, so you will recycle and you will come back, and there's really nothing wrong with that. I believe the way we get out of the birth death cycle is to forgive ourselves, realizing that there is no amount of lives that can come back to correct for anything that we've done. All of it's ultimately experiential, and when you've gotten to a level where you can consciously understand that in death, you've worked on yourself enough to be able to go, oh, I forgive myself for those things. And
Hmm.
that thought process would never come from somebody who doesn't make a solid change in their life and go, wow, and kind of even say what you said, Joe, like, dude, I've got so much karma to deal with, oh my God, I hope I can get through it. It's like you can, because you can forgive yourself ultimately. And just
I don't necessarily believe that I have so much karma to deal with. I feel like I've manned up, and you know, I said I may, you know, I
right,
don't
right, right,
know
right. Yeah, yeah.
what lies ahead, but I know that I took responsibility for the harm that I caused onto animals, onto other people throughout my life, the lies that I told, and I did that fucking self work on myself. That the majority of people, and this ain't patting myself on the back, well, let's just be real, majority of people will never do that shit. Will
None of
never
them.
fucking sit down with themselves and be honest with themselves and ask them questions. Ask them the real hardcore fucking questions, like, where am I really at right now? What lies am I telling myself? I
That's a
say I'm
big
a
one.
conscious fucking freedom-minded individual who stands on natural law principles. And I don't want to harm any sentient beings. What am I doing about my diet? You know, well, I am harming other sentient beings. Well, what am I doing to change that? Am I just fucking making excuses? Am I being a lazy bitch about it? Like, what am I doing? What am I not doing? And
Right.
answer those questions objectively and honestly, and say, okay, now do something about it. You know,
Right.
and as far as my how you treat everyone else, you know, like what had I done in the past? The lies I told to my old lady and to my mother and to my brother, and you know, things I've stolen, and you know, fucking being man enough to acknowledge that, apologize for that, and fucking, you know, swear up and down and never do it again and become a way better man and better person than, you know, than I ever was before, and just keep working for, you know, How many people will sit down with themselves, ask those questions, and do that kind of work on themselves? So, I beg the creator for forgiveness. I've since worked on myself. I changed my diet. I serve the truth, and I serve freedom in all that I do. I speak the truth relentlessly, obnoxiously. I've lost jobs over it. I've lost friends over it. I've lost family members over it. How many fucking people will do that in their lifetime? Very,
many.
very few and far between.
Yeah.
I feel like a fucking load of my karmic debt at least has been taken off, and I don't necessarily feel like, I may have some karma to pay, but if I do, I'll take that on. But I disagree with what you said about, in the end, there is no such thing as right and wrong. Of course, but of course there has to be, right? Because if we're all what we call God, and what we're all, we're all this one consciousness in this creation that it simulates for it to experience itself in order to learn more about itself and grow. It needs to set a rule set in the game so that it could benefit itself and constantly grow. So it sets a rule set in the simulation of, okay, if I in the aspects of myself behave a certain way, it's going to mirror the efforts and the behaviors that I put out, and that's going to come back to me in this way. And if I change the behavior, this is going to come back to me, in this way. It's set a rule set into the fabric of this existence for its optimal benefit. For it, what I'm talking about is God itself.
Right.
So in the end, like, of course, there has to be an objective standard for.
But what about a soul
morality.
that comes here to incarnate simply to experience something bad? You know what I mean?
What was
That's
that?
the
I'm
thing.
sorry.
So what about a soul that comes here to incarnate in this reality, in this 3D reality, which is, by the way, a lot different than a lot of, like, this 3D is not a normal thing. And so people come here, souls come here for reasons. And we don't, I think if we're lucky, we connect with our higher self enough to go, ooh, I know why I'm here. You know what I mean? That's like a hardcore hit.
That's where free will comes in, because if you're coming back here to experience something bad, then that means that you're carrying something, you're reincarnating, you're carrying something back from the previous life, right?
Military guy at 5.
What?
Okay, a kid that gets shot in the head by a military guy at 5.
Right.
How do we talk about that? Well, that guy, he maybe was a military guy beforehand, and that's how he's going in his own world, in his own reality, justifying his karmic pay. Well, if I shot a kid my last life, no, I don't agree with that. I'll go back.
Well, I mean, that's just a manifestation of that. That's just a manifestation of immorality. Free will practicing immorality.
Exactly. So no right or wrong to it. It just is. And again,
well, no, but it is wrong. But it is wrong. It's just a free will. These are all free will individual units of consciousness that isn't predictable. They're acting on their free will, and that immorality happens out of the free will choices of people.
Sure. And like you said, the law is you'll get back what you give out.
Yeah.
The law isn't whether it's right or wrong.
Well, I'm not even talking about you're going to get back. I'm not even. I don't go even that deep into it. Reincarnation and why you may be.
I mean, right now, how we behave is what's going to come back at us.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, especially in the aggregate, I don't really speak about like individual like karma. Like fucking okay, what I put out.
I absolutely do. I don't know why people are like that either. I don't mean to like offend you or say that, but our thoughts, our voice, and our actions are all vibration, and they go out like ripples. And when you're an alcoholic piece of shit, and I know this from experience, you experience being an alcoholic piece of shit from everything you run into, from the lies you. So when you change that, it takes a while for those ripples that you've already sent out to stop coming back at you. So a lot of people will have that, I've gotten better. Why does life still suck? And it's like, dude, you've sent out some shit waves for a long time. They're still coming at you. And that's your higher self also giving yourself a chance to go, okay, I've changed my mindset and what I say and how I behave. And yet the world is still coming at me like I was back there. Can I still keep that mindset, my speech, and my actions while this life comes at me and go, oh, wow, this is who I was. That's cool.
But is that change actual, or is it something that maybe not you, but the person in this situation is tricking themselves into believing is true?
Correct. And that's
Right.
how it works, because if you falter and go back into those old ways, then you weren't fixed.
And
But
if
you
this
get
were
good-
if this idea worked, like if this idea worked, like you walked out the door and an anvil fell on you or a piano fell on you, you'd
Well, no,
learn
it
real
certainly
quick that,
doesn't.
you know, but like that's the point, right?
Right.
Is that the work needs to be done. It's atonement.
And it's never necessarily
Part of
like
it,
the
part of it's
negative I sent out
atonement.
necessarily doesn't ever stop coming back in
Right.
some way, you know, because again, there is no time limit. I don't know, but I know there is a personal karma, and I also know there's an aggregate karma.
Absolutely.
There's no personal karma is ridiculous. Now there's again, I know you're talking kind of maybe about how Mark presents it, and I just disagree with him a little bit on that. But there is a definite personal karma, but there is no time limit on it. There's no.
Oh,
well,
I
I'm being good
absolutely.
today, so I should get good today.
I know. I
No,
experienced
that's
it
not
in
how
my
it
own
works.
life. I experienced it in my own life. For what I put out, I get back. I know that there's a personal karma, absolutely, and just
Yep.
in my work individually, when I try to reach
Yep.
people, this is why you do the work on yourself before you present to people and before
Yeah.
you try to get on camera or behind a microphone and speak to other people. If your shit ain't together and you're not doing what's right in your own personal life, you have no business talking to anybody else trying to teach natural law or objective morality to anybody, you know.
Yep.
But I just like to try to explain to people how we generate freedom. First, it's getting your shit together and becoming a moral human being and trying to do what's right in all that you do.
And seeing that, yeah, that's why there's right and wrong, because you stated that part at the beginning, to generate freedom. Without that, then there isn't there. It's like, well, then just do whatever you want. Oh, well, I want freedom. Oh, well, then there's right and wrong, my friend. You see what I mean?
Well, yeah, if you want freedom, then there's requirements. You have to adhere to certain principles, you know.
Right.
That
So
it's not
right,
just
but
I just want to clarify that I'm not for there's no right and wrong. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying like in an ultimate, like highest level, your soul. There's no right and wrong to your soul. But for us on this planet to get better and to do anything outside of what the hell's already going on, which none of us like, yeah, dude, there's a lot of right and wrong, and it's
well, I think like
to know it, and then when you do know it, to share it.
The argument could be made that right and wrong exist regardless of the outcome that you desire.
No, because then it would be right to hurt someone if you desired to get hurt. I mean, if your desire was
Is it better to give a homeless man bread or to kick a kid in the head?
Well, it depends on
because, like whether or not whatever.
If you want to hurt the kid, I would say your best bet is to kick the kid.
But that's moral relativism.
But right, and again, I'm not saying like that person who's coming from that point is the one.
I'm just saying that, like, regardless of the outcome that you desire, there's an
objective standard of morality that exists independently of what your desired outcome will be. It's there. Doesn't give a shit what you think about it, believe it, know it or not, adhere to it or not. It's there, and it's like, all right, ignore me, believe whatever you want, but behave a certain way. This shit is going to come back to you in a certain fashion. That's it.
Exactly right. That's it. And that's where I'm at with it. So we want freedom. So then this is right for freedom. If you want slavery, this is what's right for slavery. And that's a whole different set of what's right for then freedom.
I think you got to look at it the opposite way, that if you want to do right, then the outcome is freedom. And if you do wrong, the outcome is slavery. Not that if you want freedom, you got to do what's right, but that doing what's right.
But there is a correct way to behave to achieve.
That's what I'm saying.
To achieve
exactly.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you can, if you're going for slavery, doing this shit ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm seeing what you're saying now.
And it's all semantics. Yeah. I know I'm playing the semantics game. I know there's people out there that are like, he's just playing semantics. I'm just playing myself.
But that's the thing. I think people
even right or wrong. I'm not.
I think people overthink this and I'm not saying you personally. I'm just like with people in this community. Yeah. Like, and everyone tries to find flaw in the logic and shit. It's so fucking simple that it's stupid. And sometimes, like, I really sit back and think, like, do I really, like, get on a podcast and try to explain this to grown-ass adults that there is such a thing as right and wrong, and that, you know, all this shit that's going on, the New World Order agenda and all its many facets and all this shit, like the way we get out of it is just being moral human beings, is understanding objective morality, the fact that there is an objective standard for human beings to live by in order for them, it's either one or two modalities of behavior. You behave immorally, collectively, in the aggregate, you're going to be enslaved, and you're going to cause mass death eventually. You know, if that immorality increases, that's where it leads to death. Right. And if you behave morally, if you practice right moral thought and action collectively in the aggregate, you're going to generate fucking freedom. That's it. That's what'll happen. Everyone.
I think the reason I brought this up is so that when we die, we don't keep that same reality. And that is, if you read any Rudolf Steiner, and you were talking about Max Heigl, is that it? In the
Max Heindel for the Rosicrucian.
Yeah. So and I just read some Steiner, but anyway, he talks about getting out of the birth-death cycle. And I've read other things and heard other things, and so to me, it's like once you've died, that's when you have to go. Oh yeah, it's cool. I don't have to keep doing this. See, that's a trick. That's a mind control trick for us to stay here and keep reincarnating in a cycle that isn't real. The morality is real, and there is right and wrong. But once you've died, we can forgive ourselves to not be forced to do this again. That's ultimately where I'm at with my. That's where I'm at with my. Why I would even bring this up, because yes, dude, there is right and wrong, and yes, it is super important on how we behave in the aggregate and individually. But once we've died, I think that's our mind control trap, is that we would then perceive whatever and go, oh, I have to go back to pay for that. And it's like, no, dude, that's the trap. Like our
but just like how forgiveness can work on a person-to-person level, the same idea can be carried over to the universe and to the source, the creator, right? So we can let go, or we can be forgiven, or forgive another, right? But that forgiveness comes with you're not going to do this again,
right?
I mean,
that's the caveat. Yes, it does require an enlightened individual to even have this conversation, let alone the thought.
So like this karmic discharge, it takes forgiveness. It makes that cosmic apology. That's what has to happen, right? So this karmic discharge happens when you've made the cosmic apology, but through your actions is what grants forgiveness from the universe. So that's why it takes time to see the results of changing your action, is because the universe doesn't believe in you, and it doesn't care about your feelings, and it wants to see results. It's not human to human. This is something that none of us really
personal, dude.
You know, that we've never been able to. I don't know. No, scratch that last sentence. The universe is like, it doesn't care about you. It's going to do
it's impersonal, right? It's not a personal force,
right? I mean, you're within it, and it created you. So at some point it does have care, because it has these boundaries, it has these principles and laws set into place. So it did that for a reason. It's an intelligence. It did it for a reason. So, you know, going forward, like that's what we need to cling on to. It's that idea that the work that you do is not for nothing,
right?
And that there is going to be forgiveness, but you need to prove that you're fucking worthy of it.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Well, it rewards.
Like I talked about in my own story about this tug of war, and when I finally had enough, God damn it, I had enough, and I was sitting there acting like such an asshole to the only people on this planet that I am sure even care about me. And some of these people that I was acting terrible toward don't even have a fucking choice whether to be around me or not.
Yeah.
They legitimately don't have a fucking choice. It's my own kids, for fuck's sake. And I was not abusing them. Not in that sense. I grew up being emotionally abused and neglected, and like due to the drink. And that is something I noticed in myself starting to carry over through this generational trauma or generational abuse. That was my version of it. There's a line, again, lines, right? Boundaries. There's a line there that I know I would never cross because of how much it damaged me. But there was also another part of it where I was crossing, because it's that emotional abandonment, that mental abandonment that I was carrying over, that was done to me, carrying over to starting to notice. And I saw a reflection of a person that did it to me. I saw it in myself, and I'm doing it to my children, and I did it. And just snapping. The anxiety, the stress, and everything to the umpteenth level, like just out of control. And I'm like getting home, I'm drinking, and like then a problem happens. I own a home. A problem happens. I can't even go and fix it. We have, and like, oh, there's next thing you know, there's no heat and hot water, but I can't even drive to Home Depot to get the $4 piece of electric component that I need to be able to turn my furnace back on because I'm wasted at 5 o'clock and I've only been home for an hour and a half. And like, I'm freaking out for nothing. And if I were able to drive, there would be no freak out because I'd be able to fix the problem. Right. So, and like, that was one of the moments where, you know, I'll be just straight up honest. I was in my basement. My son was with me. He wanted to hold the flashlight. So I let him. I brought him with me and we were down there and he's 4 and he wasn't holding the flashlight right where it needed to be. And I fucking lost it on him. And I can't forgive myself for that. But I can work toward making it so that never happens again. That one incident was just like, whoa, what the fuck am I doing, man? And this little kid did nothing wrong. And I'm like treating him like he's just not, like he knew that, just, it was just terrible of me. And I saw in myself what had been done to me and I was doing it to him. And I said, nope. That ain't happening. Not on my watch. My job's to protect these fucking kids. Not that's that. And that was a situation like that really made me like open up my eyes to just how I was acting. Now, I reached out. I said, I was like, yeah, I was wrong. I had to make peace with that. And I had to sit there and face, the creator. I had to basically reach out and be like, yeah, I was fucking wrong, and I was like terrible. And will I see the effects of the changing of my actions immediately? No. That's just not how it works. I have to prove that I got the lesson and that I saw that I was doing wrong, because that's just a slippery slope, and it's not a logical fallacy if it's the truth. So that slippery slope logical fallacy, it's not a fallacy if it's true. Okay. And that is a slippery slope. Yep. I lived through that as a child, and here I am, 30 something years later and doing it to my own. And it's like, I'm ashamed but like, what helps me today is that I realized it and I cut it the fuck out. And, am I Mr. Perfect these days? No, I admit it all the time. I still have a temper, but I'm not so easy to fly off the handle, and I'm better at communicating. And I just don't let that shit happen again. It's like we have to, shit, man, like it's all about wanting it and saying I sucked. I was wrong. I'm sorry. And I won't do that again. And then, the universe is sitting there like, prove it.
Yeah. That's why in AA, they tell you when you go to apologize to people, right? When you do your, like the hard one, which is like making a list of everybody you fucked over and then go tell them not only what you did, but like that you're sorry about it and that you will do something to make up for it. Not that you're sorry. Like, that's like, okay, yeah, you say that, but like, it's like, dude, you have to like, and this is another place where, because I had a good sponsor at work and he explained this to me well, he's like, first of all, the most important part of when you go do this is to say the 3 words, I was wrong. And it was so crazy because this dude knew nothing of natural law. He was the most unspiritual dude. Like, he literally ended at kindergarten at AA. He was an AA guru. He knew everything about AA and he could really get people sober, but he knew nothing beyond that. And so, and I didn't realize that initially. It took me a while before I figured that out. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. But he was really hardcore about, you have to say the words, "I was wrong," or this won't work. And I was like, okay, I'll say that. And then he's like, and you have to tell people it. You say you're sorry, blah blah blah. That doesn't have anything to do with it. It's what can I do to make up for what I did? I was wrong. What can I do? That's
Mhm.
how. And I was like, okay. So it's crazy. He was telling me these natural law principles and having no clue himself, and I didn't know it at the time either, because I didn't know Passio's work or about any of it. I was just like, I'm going to follow what this dude says because he's gotten people sober and he himself is sober, and that was it. That's all I knew. So that's what I did. And turns out, I find out later when I found Mark Passio's work about a year and a half after I was sober, I was like, holy shit, that's cool. You know, you just hear like the most important 3 most powerful words you'll ever speak, or I was wrong. I'm like, that's how I did it. Cool.
Well, think about it. It's just so fucking simple. Like,
Yeah,
you
it's
know, like
humbling yourself. It's called getting rid of the ego. And I did what you did too, man. I begged for so long, please forgive me. Oh my God, I can't forgive myself for these things I did. And I remember I was so hard on myself about that for so long. And I just heard a voice, dude. Ultimately I feel it's my higher self, but it just said it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, cause I just wouldn't let it go. And I just didn't know what to do. I was like, I feel like, I guess if I'm asking, I should be receiving the forgiveness, right? But I didn't feel forgiven. And then I just got a voice in my head. My inner voice told me, like, you're good. Just keep going where you're going. Stop pining over shit that's already happened that you can't change. You can't change it. You've already asked for forgiveness. You've said it out loud. You're making the steps. Let it go, and then
yeah.
work on. Just keep
Sometimes
going
we
that direction. Yeah.
Right.
torture
And then it's
ourselves.
like, and then
I
it
was
makes sense
torturing
to, like,
myself.
you
Oh
know,
my God, I was. Yeah.
to let it go, and that you can't change it, but what can you do? What's the empowerment there? Right? What
Yep.
can you
Moving
do?
forward.
You can make it move forward and make it so you don't do that same thing again. Learn
Yep.
from your mistake. That's how you're going to get the forgiveness from the universe, is like through your actions. And like, it's like the real law of attraction, as Passio would put it, right? Where like you're going to get back what you put out.
Yep.
And through your actions, if you're doing right's going to happen to you, and you're not going to recognize it immediately when it comes back your way, and it might not be the way that you think. That's what I mean, like the way you think it's going to come back, but it will.
Yep.
And whether it be like even something small, like you weren't late for work one day, something like crazy like that. And if we're gonna even, concentrate on work for a minute, but that one day you weren't late for work, you just so happen to be there at the right time. And next thing you know, you get that promotion, and domino. Where's the first domino? Who knows? But it's got to be there somewhere, and
Yep.
then it's gonna fall, and the rest of the dominoes are gonna follow suit, and it could be a good thing. Or it could be a bad thing. There's consequences for good behavior. Consequence as a word is like, it's just, I don't know. You hear the word consequence, and it's got like this negative connotation to it. But it's like consequences for good actions exist. you know,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah,
uh,
it's just an outcome based on an
Mhm.
action. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Con or
that story that I
With
told, by the way,
with
like
sequence. It just is something that
yeah,
a
seems to me.
sequence of events that led up to
Yeah, con
yeah,
is with, and sequence.
manifestation what you're
Just
experiencing.
if you do
yeah,
this, getting this. That's how it goes. It's a
yeah.
consequence. Yeah, that makes
But,
sense. That's cool.
but that story that I told was about about 2 or 3 days after I talked to Ivan Oyola for the first time.
Mm.
And in that video, I was drinking, and I smacked the microphone with my beer. And I was like editing it or something, I forget, but I watched it again, and I was just like, God damn it, I look like such an ass. And then I apologized to Ivan for it, and I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I look like an idiot. Like, but Ivan's cool. He's like, man, no big deal, man. But then he sent me that the interview that Joe had him and Nathan Redette, and I think that was it. The three of them were talking, and Joe for like a few minutes just went off about how you're treating yourself. You're abusing drugs and alcohol. Look at yourself. Like, do you really think that you're doing any good? Like, are you treating yourself right? Like, what the fuck do you expect to get done with your time here? Like, that kind of stuff. And I wish I could remember verbatim what he said, but this dude right here, like, I've said it to him before, I'll say it again. It's like he sat me down in a room, like in my earphones. He's just like, hey, fuckhead, cut it out. And it's like, whoa. So like in between talking to Ivan and hearing Joe basically like, knocking sense into people on a microphone for the first time ever. Like that incident that I described in the basement, like that happened. And like I was just like, whoa, like I knew, like I just knew it was it's time. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it right. There had been times before where I'd go like 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, clean and sober. And then I'd always go back thinking, oh, I changed enough. Oh, I solved that issue. I would get so drunk. I'm not even exaggerating this at all. I used to get into fights, and even up to a couple years ago. And when it didn't go my way, like I wouldn't necessarily start the fight, but I wouldn't try to stop it. Other people would. There was one incident a couple years ago when somebody actually got in the middle, like of myself and this other guy, and it was at a party, somebody's birthday party, and there was a shoving match, and next thing you know, I'm being held down by like three people, and somebody else is over there talking to the other guy, and I'm just freaking out. I'm going. It took three people to restrain me, and I'm not a small person in stature. I'm not a huge person. I'm about 6'1". I weigh about 225 pounds, and it took three people to restrain me that night. No punches were thrown between myself and that other guy, but I was so angry and so just like ready to go. When I left that party and I got back to my house, I started viciously punching myself in the face with both of my fists, just bang, bang, bang. Like I have pictures, my face swollen up, bruised up, and everything. I did it to myself. It wasn't the first time I ever did something like that. I used to really abuse myself, and it's no joke. There were about 3 or 4 times where I tried to commit suicide, and it's not a joke to me. Um, and this isn't like, pity party or anything like that, but this is how serious it can get for some people out there. And like, I guess like sharing all these stories at the end of all of it, it's like, there is hope. Like if I could do it, anyone can. That's really downright to it. Like what I'm sharing these stories with you guys about is like just to like put it out there in the universe that like there is hope. And personally, I can't speak for these other two gentlemen here, but anyone listening to this, if you're struggling with this crap and you're done, you know, you can email me. We can get a discourse going and talk about something. It's just another set of ears to talk to. You don't have to suffer. You're not alone. And that's my call to anyone out there. It's the way I can repay what's been given to me, like this second chance, this new lease on life. And like it's a way for me to like, I mean, I'm not always immediately available, but I certainly, if you're putting in the work and it shows, like I'm not going to turn my back on anyone that wants to do better for themselves. That's fucking half the reason why I even do this podcast. Like it's like to just try to help people, and like that's where my head's at. Like but like I've been down in the friggin' the dirt over this shit, and I don't know, man. I see it as a potential problem in this community too, with like anarchists and this whole idea of like, what we're here to do is to like kind of narrow the scope, right? Is to like be like, no, this whole lawlessness, this absolute just wild man type of idea that you get from anarchy, where it's usually associated with this just chaos and law, like I said, like lawlessness and chaos and like no rules, and like, oh, do whatever you want to whoever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, however you choose to do it. Like, no, that's not the case. Like, and it's literally like the three of us know no masters, right? No rulers, no masters. If you're drinking and you're abusing drugs and you're addicted, guess what? You have a master. And if you're considering yourself an anarchist and you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, I mean, given the idea that, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, but not being a dry drunk at the same time, like actually getting off the booze and changing your actions so you're not falling into that dry drunk or that dry druggy type of behavior, which is, for anyone that doesn't know what I mean by dry drunk, is literally like you get sober, but the only thing that changes is you're not drinking. You're not changing your actions or your mindset, your attitude, nothing. It's just the only thing that changes is you just don't drink anymore. You're not using the drugs anymore. I think I have a message for anyone out there that considers themselves an anarchist and also knows that they're an alcoholic or abusing drugs. Like, I think that you can't be. I think that you got to be kidding yourself, because you have a master. Like, like a true anarchist would like not readily willingly accept a master, and fight off anyone that they can that is like a master. What I'm trying to get at, like,
Yeah, being tied down,
right.
It's a spirit, and you have a spirit as your master. I mean, if it's alcohol, I mean, in that specific sense.
Right. It's like, there are these small groups of people out there that would like to consider themselves everybody's masters and everything. And that's like ultimately who we're up against, right? Let's try to change the world for the better. But on a smaller scale, the things that you can absolutely change, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I had a friend of mine who I had to like talk to about it. I'm like, so you're an anarchist? He's like, yep. Like, but you're also an alcoholic. He's like, yep. I'm like, how does that, so do you have a master? And he's like, oh shit, I do. I'm like, okay. Just trying to like open up people's eyes, to that idea that, I don't know. Hey,
and I don't think it's
not
really
about sobriety.
To hurt yourself, I mean, I know that we can hurt ourselves, but I don't think we should. I think, again, we should look at it like hurting someone else. Like, dude, we are not in keeping with natural law if we're doing any harm to ourselves.
I'm not, and I don't advocate that. I want to get the point across. Like, I try to get the point across through my work, through my music and podcasts. Like, yeah, you don't initially, you're right. You have the right, the God-given natural right to do anything you please, as long as you don't initiate harm onto other sentient beings. What you choose to do to yourself at the end of the day will not constitute harming or infringing on other people's rights. Am I advocating you do whatever you want to yourself? No. And that's why I did a show like denouncing the religion of carnism and speaking about that. This is why I'm doing a show about drugs tonight, about drug abuse tonight, because I'm not an advocate of just do whatever you want to your body. No one owns you, so fuck it, go have a blast. You only here once. No, I'm trying to tell people, like James is saying, the concept and or the definition of anarchy is no rulers, no masters, right? But why? Right? Because it's not right. So we need to explain why it is immoral to have a ruling class or to have masters, and why and what we want a free society to actually look like, and how we get there. When we're not going to get there if we're all not right within ourselves, if we all didn't fix our shit up and clean our houses up, and and practice what we preach and lead by example, and understand objective morality and adhere to those principles, to ourselves, onto others, that's the only way we're going to achieve true anarchy. What these other idiots in this so-called community of ours are advocating, I mean, man, this community largely is just a fucking joke. It's like it's a circus, and no one, the only people that are really talking about real shit, I mean, unfortunately, it's a sad fact of the matter, are on the network, dude. Mark found them all at this point,
right?
And that's a fucking, man, that is just a sad fact right there, dude.
Oh, and the search continues.
60 people.
Yep.
Yeah,
hey,
it's growing, but still.
We're out here. Yeah, it'll grow. We're doing that right now. Somebody's going to hear this and go, we changed their mind. You know what I mean? Even if it's one person. That's how I look at everything I do. At least one person's going to go, awesome. And
if you are that one person, start doing some of this work yourself too. Put it back out there for real, because like Joe said, like, the people on the network seem to be the only ones that have been found right now. There's more people out there, but make it public. Do the work, make it public, because this is how we do it in this day and age. Like, that's another point that, like, I think needs to be stressed, just as an aside, about doing this work and like trying to help people, to do the right thing and to make the world a better place. My version of that is obvious, like about objective morality and natural law. Like how I don't know. There's not many holes in it.
Well, that is
There's actually
getting to the
none.
root,
There's
and
no
that's what
holes in it.
that's what I mean by, like, that's everyone is on the network that's talking about what really matters and what's really getting to the root of the problem. I mean, I've listened to many other researchers and activists for fucking the past 15 fucking years, and the sad fact of the matter, the only fucking person speaking about objective morality and natural law is Passio, you know, and that's sad, man. That's fucking really crazy. I mean, Larkin Rose too, to an extent, um, gets into it. But I mean, and that's it. And now everyone else within this network are really putting out good work and are fucking getting at the root of the problem, dude, and trying to smash people's dumbass belief systems and trying to get people to understand, like, where this is all coming from, our dumbass thoughts, our dumbass beliefs, and not us understanding objective morality and the fact that there is such a thing as objective morality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that shit needs to grow. I mean, it is, but I mean, we're getting there slow and steady, but
Yeah. And a big part of it is people realizing that they need to be personally responsible, even though there's an Illuminati, even though there's the Masons, even though there's all this mind control, even though there's all this poison in the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, well, look what they did to us. You still have to take personal responsibility for everything and go, well, I can filter my water. I can eat better. I can inform myself of how they're coming at me. And I realize I'm in a war, and then I can, even peacefully be at war and counter most of what they do. But again, it's knowledge. You got to it's all
But
about
that takes
arming yourself with that. Yeah.
that takes a level of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we're out here abusing this again, like, this podcast is not about sobriety, it's about recognizing drug abuse. I just want to, like, we're probably midway through, if not, who knows how long it's going to go for, but, like, again, this is not about sobriety, this is about abuse and recognizing when you've crossed that line. So what John is saying, what I wanted to say was that takes a level of consciousness to be able to recognize the problem. And if you're dulling your senses with drugs and alcohol to the point where it's that big of an issue, you're not a very conscious being. And
how effective can you be?
right, exactly. Thank you, Joe. Exactly. Yeah. How effective can you really be? Not very, and something, like I said, to kind of call back to something I said a little while back, was like, you're in fact, like, you're participating in the creation of the dependency that we're actually kind of suffering from right now, because our opposition, they thrive on dependency and abandonment issues, and the lack of consciousness that unfortunately the vast majority of people have, this lack of consciousness I'm mentioning. So, I mean, we can't really solve the issues if we've dulled our senses.
And we're all fucked up and strung out on shit and dependent on shit. How are we going to pull ourselves out of this fucking nightmare that we're in? We need to be in tip-top fucking shape. We need to get our shit together. Not about perfection. It's not about perfection. It's just start to work on yourself first and foremost. It needs to start there. Has to start with you. Regardless, like John said, there's Illuminati, you want to call them that, if you have the fucking balls to even call them that. The New World Order, all these fucking different secret societies, what they're doing, like, none of that shit matters, dude. Like,
It's not an excuse.
It's on you. You're the answer. It's not just little you who has no power to stop all that's happened. Like, you have all the power in the world. That's why they're doing all that they could do to us, because we're that fucking powerful. That if we find that shit out and clean our shit up and turn our shit around, it'll be over in a fucking heartbeat. That's why they work as hard as they do, to try to suppress us and poison us and, poison our minds and our bodies. Like, and they're at it 24 fucking 7. 24/7. That's all they're about. They're on the same page with their agenda and what they want to accomplish, and they're fucking doing it. They're getting it done. They're not sitting around making excuses, sitting around watching fucking TV, eating, drinking like shit. They're fucking getting it done. They're getting it done. If we could do the same goddamn thing for the right cause, but starts with you, starts with the individual. You need to clean your shit up, not to a point where you're perfect and you've reached this state of enlightenment, like just good enough. You clean your shit up good enough to a point where you're no longer a hypocrite. Now you could go out and fucking try to influence others to change their hearts and minds and to better themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And be the change that you like want to be, the change that you want to see, right? Like be the product of that, like, show like, hey, that's why I have no problem being open and honest about some of the shitty things that I've done and how I've treated others and treated myself and everything like that. I consider, those to be some of the most regrettable things that I've done. But am I like, oh no, my whole life's over? Like, no, that would be like counterproductive to the goal of like being better. It's like, yes, those things happened, but I got to change. And part of that change is letting go, like kind of forgive myself and let go of it so I can like continue down the path of like the path of the righteous man, not the like quote the
You have to
Bible or,
yourself, dude.
but like you gotta see, so you seek the change and then be it,
Yeah. Well, ultimately, now is the only moment there really is. So if we're constantly living in something that happened or something that we want to happen, we're wasting this,
Right. I mean, well, having goals is good, I think.
Right. And yeah. Imagining what is to come and focusing on that is also a good thing. But again, right now is all that there really is. So more of our attention should be focused here, certainly not on the regrets that we've had. And again, there's something to be gained from remembering, oh, wow, I'll never do that again.
Right.
But to hold yourself down, to beat yourself up, to not let yourself progress, to really at some point even remember it, because you've now, when you were leaning on yourself with it, you were making the change so that now you've changed so much. I don't even need to remember that, dude. Like I've just changed so, and that's in my life. I've noticed things that I was like, wow, I hope I've changed so much that like I don't even think about some stuff that was like I've just moved past it. Like it's not part of my reality anymore. I've literally killed that old dude off, and some stuff just got to go with him. I choose not to remember it because I'm past it. Other stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, don't remember
Remember that so you don't fucking do that again. Yeah, it's hard for people to do. For me, I struggled with that for so long. I still do, but not as much. Like it'll come back to bite regret. You get pulled in the fucking past over some. Oh man, if I could go back and just redo it, I would be in a way better position now for my daughter. And and I think about dumbass mistakes that I made, but I get over it quicker because I know I'm a better man now than I ever was. I'm not saying I'm a fucking perfect being, but I know, I'm honest with myself, and I try every day to be like a better version of myself than I was the day before. Shit, I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
What the fuck were you just saying? About being pulled in the past and
forgiving yourself,
and then you get pulled in the past, or if you're worried about the future, you're being pulled into places you just have zero power over. Like you said, only time is now. The past is a good reminder of what you should not do or we should do, right? You can learn, you have good happenings and situations where you can learn from, right? And set goals for the future, but remain in the now. It's very hard to fucking do. Develop true present moment awareness is very hard to do, but that's what it's all about. So try to live in the present moment and get your shit done. And that's what meditation really is just about, shutting your fucking mind off, at night. I do it at night. I've been slacking as of lately, but dying to get back into it. I used to be heavy into it. So that night, just trying to calm your fucking mind chatter. Like you don't realize how nuts you are until you try to do that. And you try to like silence your mind. Like my thoughts overlap each other.
Oh my God.
What about this thing? What about it?
And to try to keep track of even what they are. try that. That's how I started. I was like, oh my God, like to just even be aware of what thoughts you're having at that moment. It's like, dude, they are all over the place. They seem to come from everywhere and have no rhyme or reason. And when you can do that regularly, you start to be able to focus. But man, it's really hard. It's like jumble. It's like somebody took 9 decks of cards and just dumped them all together, and you got to start picking decks out. You're like, oh my God, dude. And you can eventually start putting a deck together after a while, but you're like, dude, that's been months. And I tell people about it. I was like, dude, you got to constantly think, what am I thinking? How am I thinking? And focus on what I'm actually doing. This was like while I was at work. Like I should be thinking about and doing this and not letting my mind wander to random stuff. And I was able to kind of get myself into that. Then I would specifically think about something, and I was like able to kind of control my thought. You know what I mean? A little bit, but it took months of hard work, and it's by no means do I have control of all my thoughts, but I am aware. I think that's the key.
Focus on like what I've learned, and I followed someone who got some guided meditation and what they say to do, and I think this is important in doing the great work, working on yourself, and being able to stay grounded and solid so that you can continue to fight for truth and freedom. I think meditation, first taking care of yourself in every aspect, is very important. To do this for sure. But some certain teachers like that I followed and guided meditation say, when you calm yourself down, close your eyes, you want to sit fucking in a lotus position, whatever, lay down, close your eyes, and just focus on, just notice how effortless it is to actually just be. And then you bug out because you're like, holy shit, I don't have to try to do anything. Like, I'm here. You feel like this energy that you are. And how your body just works. Blood just the heart pumps the blood through you don't do nothing, you just exist. And then he says, you're gonna notice the thoughts are gonna start to come like fish pecking at like a pole, like fish like pecking on like a larger fish, a swarm of fish. And notice them, but don't attach yourself to any one of them, any thought, no matter how tempting it is, no matter if it's what you said or how you feel you looked before, what you did or didn't do, what you're going to do tomorrow, no matter how tempting it is, don't latch onto it. Just observe these thoughts and let them pass like a storm cloud going through your mind. And it's so difficult to do. But once you just lay back and you are observing this mind chatter, all of a sudden it starts to like subside and it disappears. You wind up, and I've reached this state a few times, you wind up just being totally like in a state where you're like beyond thought. You transcend thought, and you just are at the moment. It's very difficult to explain, but you come to feel what you actually are, which is just awareness. You're not these thoughts. You're not these built up emotions that you have. You just are. It's hard to explain, but I've reached this state in meditation a couple of times, and you're not trying to be anywhere or feel a certain way. You're just letting yourself be and letting the thoughts flow through your head and not attaching yourself to any thoughts, and just letting that mind chatter go and just observe it. And then you realize, well, who the fuck is this that's observing that mind chatter? It's bugged out, but it's a good way to get in touch with that essence of what you actually are, which is just pure awareness. I think it's important for people to do.
Yep. Yeah, it's that's like I kind of heard this guy talking about. Oh, his theory is ultimately that there's a parasitic invasion consciousness-wise on this planet, and that is what our big problem is. Ultimately, there's another consciousness that has kind of attached itself to us, which you could loosely kind of call our ego. And so it's not entirely it, but this guy in India basically experienced death but didn't die, and then came back into his body. And what he said was that for years he would question the parasite consciousness in him, saying, who am I, who am I, who am I, over and over. And because of natural law, it had to tell him who he was, and it had to express what was in there. And then he said, you don't get to stay. And he experienced death and went through his whole, like, their whole cosmology of what happens when you die, etc., and come back. And he did. And he explained, that's what happened. That's what I did. I confronted the thing. And he equated it to mind chatter. right? Like that's that parasite. That's what that does. And it's also, it works with your feelings too. You'll just be cruising along and all of a sudden you feel bad about something that happened 2 years ago. And that's not you. That's the consciousness that's dragging you down into name the bad aspect of life: worry, anxiety, fear, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so anyway, it was just that real, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? You know, over and over and over, and just finally pulling that thing out to the point where, is that really me, or is that this other aspect of me that that I've convinced myself is me and I do want, but do I really? And again, that's like what you're saying, but on an exponential level, where you really take this meditation and asking about yourself and this kind of thing. And this guy, that was his experience out of it. Like, he kicked out the parasite, the other wolf, whatever, metaphor you want to use for the thing in your mind that makes you even think to do something bad. Like, that's not natural, I don't think. That's his contention. That's kind of the contention I've come up with. There's an invading consciousness here that is not natural or usual to us, and so now we fight and want to kill, and we separate ourselves from nature, and we eat poison, and it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with us?
David Icke essentially says the same shit in a different way. But I'm a believer that, I mean, if we want to get into it, which I doubt we do, but I'm definitely a believer like something else is controlling this whole shit show, and it may be like a mind parasite. But I do think, like, as far as like how we operate and the level of consciousness that most people are operating at, where this mind chatter comes from, where all this negativity has come from, is just a number that's been done onto us that that we've allowed, or childhood traumas, and society plays a role on it too, dude.
Yeah.
And the influences of society. Like, I just think, like, we live in a madhouse. We live in a fucking insane asylum, and that has a very big impact on our consciousness and the way we think, the way we think about ourselves, the way we perceive the world. And to get rid of that or transcend that mindset, it's a lot of work. It's like,
A lot
it's
of work.
yourself right. It's getting your diet, cleaning your body out in a good fucking healthy diet, the best you could given the circumstances that we're in, working on the mind through meditation practices, through breathing techniques like the Wim Hof breathing technique. Very fucking powerful, very beneficial for you. Yeah, shit like that, man. And getting yourself right so you could transcend the mindset and the madness, man.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
again,
It's all
down to you.
all encompassing: mind and thought and speech and action and all of it. You got to get it all kind of balanced out. Yep. Because
Right.
your mind will ruin your day.
Yeah.
That.
If you don't, certainly if you don't know it,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
if you don't know your own mind, you got to become friends with it,
Yeah.
Well, that's why you got to be conscious of, even like, we talk about our drug intake or drug abuse, or diets. Like, you got to be conscious of what you're taking in content wise, media wise too.
Yeah.
Because
what is it? What's
fine.
what's the name for the mind virus? Jonathan, don't you know? It's like a Native American.
Oh yes. Oh man, Watiko. Or
Watiko.
Watiko
Yeah.
or Watika?
Actually, what David Icke talks about.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And it's similar. I mean, I guess in my cosmology, it's a little different, but I have heard David Icke kind of mention it, and I'm like, yeah, that's similar to what I'm talking about. I just get my information from somewhere else, but I hear him say it, and I'm like, yep, same thing. And it's all
the Watiko, the mind virus. Yeah.
It is the same thing, and he'll say David Icke says the same thing too about. Somebody asked me, why doesn't David Icke ever talk about natural law or any of that? He doesn't ever mention it, and I said, because he believes more like kind of how I do. He would tell you what I said. There is no right or wrong. Ultimately, you choose. It's a choice. That's what he'd say. I mean, I've heard him kind
He
of say.
actually does get into it, not really using the words objective morality or natural law, but if you watch, especially like his older work, Remember Who You Are and Awaken, those were fucking brilliant presentations, mind blowing. It does get into it, like in a different way. It is explained when he's breaking down the nature of reality.
But he's not out there just saying like we
work.
all have to learn to change our behavior or we're all going to fail. I mean, that's not what he's out there promoting right now at all, really. I mean, he has mentioned it before, but it's
No.
not like it's not like what he's out there doing.
No, and
he just wants
I think
consciousness to rise.
he falls short of the understanding of the self-defense principle. You know, I seen him in a
Probably.
and I love David Icke, man. Let me tell you, I'm not saying anything negative about David Icke. I fucking love that dude. He's taught me so fucking much that it's unbelievable. I think he's one of the best. That's his body of work is just amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, he did an interview on the Vinny Eastwood show with Passio recently, which was fucking excellent to see them two together.
Yeah,
That was
I
really
did. It was
and
good.
you know, Passio's got his shit together, dude, knows what he's talking about. And he, you know, Ike doesn't factor in the self-defense principle and isn't an advocate for that. You know,
Yep.
like, so, you know, it's like, yeah, it's about love. But real love is standing the fuck up and defending yourself. And
Yeah, about yourself,
family.
man. Again, it comes back to don't just let someone trample on you. That's worse. Because again, I think that we're here to take care of ourselves first so that we can help others. So if you're hurting yourself, even though you aren't directly taking rights or hurting someone else, you're eventually going to, and you know as well as I do, because if I keep drinking, boy, everyone around me is getting hurt. It just is. It will happen. It's inevitable. So like, yeah, like you got to defend yourself. I mean, oh my God, that's like one of the two pillars. You don't go out hurting
because I mean,
people,
he was getting into like, you know, this only happens because we acquiesce. We got to stop complying. But David, what happens when we stop complying? Then the state brings violence onto us. What do we do then? We defend ourselves, right? You know, we have that right in nature. You know, that is a God-given right, and we stand up because either way, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, I don't see any other way out of this other than getting physical at some point. We could try to do our best to try to communicate these principles and these truths to people the best we could. And that's what we're trying to do, to lessen the blow, you know, of where it's going to get to. But at some point, you know, the order followers, or even if it goes down the line even further, AI, you know, fucking robots, you know, Terminator fucking scenario. These people ain't going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, it'd be easier. I think humans would have a better time attacking robots though than other cops, right? Because you'd get that disconnect. You're like, oh, it's a robot, dude. Let's go kill it. Versus a cop where you're like, yeah, he's beating up little kids and old women, but I still can't go shoot him in the head. It's like, you know.
Yeah, but that's when people need to step up to the plate and realize that the other human being committing those atrocities doesn't have the same kind of barrier.
Essentially.
Yeah,
just
they
the
don't.
same as the fucking
They're not
AI.
thinking that, so why should I?
Yeah,
they're not thinking about the differences between right and wrong. So in this manner, I am
ultimately,
though, and what they're doing is fucking wrong, and I'm going to stop it.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down
numbers.
to.
We have the numbers. That's our problem. We just don't realize. People ask me all the time, how do we? I'm like, dude, there's millions of us and 100 of them. Like we literally just stop doing it.
Yep.
We stop doing it. Like, and of course it would be best if the cops would stop doing it. But even if we can't get them, if everyone else stopped doing it, like,
what the fuck are they gonna do? Like
like
when you look at the protests in fucking the UK, you look at the protests.
200,000 people surround 100 cops. What are they gonna do? It's like
it doesn't matter if the people are unarmed or not. Just trample them.
Trample them. My point. It's like, dude, there's so many of us. What are you gonna do? And it's like, we're gonna go into the Walmart and buy food. We're gonna do anything we are gonna do, and you're not gonna stop us with dudes with badges. And then it'd be even better if they go, yeah, and I'm not even doing this shit anymore either.
What's the fucking tiny dot, bro? You ever see the video of the tiny dot by Larkin Rose? That's it. That's all you need to tell people how fucking ridiculous this whole shit is, dude. Mm-hmm. It is laughable. It's a house of cards.
This isn't anything new either, by the way. Like it or leave it. Jim Morrison was talking about this back in the fucking 60s with his song 5 to 1. They have the guns, but we have the numbers, you know.
What's funny is we have the guns too. You know, here in America, like
right. But you get the drift. He's like 5 to 1. You know,
they don't stand a chance. They would have to nuke the fucking whole country, dude. You know, if they wanted a fucking physical conflict with the people of this country. They don't fucking stand a chance. And people got their head up their ass when they talk, oh, no, we can't fuck with the government. They got all kind of crazy technology that we're unaware of. Like, bro, cannot handle a guerrilla force like that, spread out as many people as there are, as many, you wouldn't know where the fuck the bullets are coming from. Not
Yeah.
only would we win, we would do it fucking fast, and it would be
Yeah.
easier than what most people think.
Yep.
But
Yeah, as
that's
long as
what
we
I'm saying. I'm sorry.
knew where the right targets were, don't go for the cops. The cops aren't the target. When that actual pops off and it's war, it's like, oh, all those dudes in suits that the cops are protecting. I've even been told, like, by certain people, like, they're just like, when shit really hits the fan, just drive right to the local airstrip outside of town. That's where the rich people will be leaving in their jets to try to escape this. And that's where you can find them.
Yeah, but who's gonna be aiming the guns? Who's gonna be aiming the guns at the people?
Oh,
It's,
I mean,
it's the
well,
order
right. I'm
followers.
just saying, like, yeah, that's where they're getting their getaway, because they got us out there fighting with the cops. When it's like,
Yeah.
holy, let the cops just.
I see
fight
what you're
themselves.
saying.
That's why they don't want it to
Be
get
like,
to that.
You're dying in this with us.
That's why they don't want it. They don't want it to get to a conflict. A lot of people
Right.
fucking say, "Oh, that's what they want. They want a war. They want us." I don't feel like they do, because, I've heard Pasio talk about this, and he explains, like, no, because that brings the whole dynamic right out into the open and into the public, and they don't want that shit. The way they have it now, they have the majority of the world's minds right where they want that shit. They don't want that to change by having a war pop off, so then people can clearly see the dividing line now. Oh, okay. It's us versus these people, these jackbooted thugs that are protecting these fucking old wrinkly fucking shitheads in suits over here.
Yep.
I hate to do this. I'm not going to end it.
Quit?
Nope. We're not quitting yet. We can go forever if you guys want to. Anyways, there is a question in the chat right now that I absolutely need to address. My boy Greg the Man, who's been tuning in the last couple of weeks, he asked a very good question. I'm going to take it first, and I'm sure that there's plenty of words to be said. So every show, I end the show by giving some positive and then saying something along the lines of, and if those things don't work, arm yourselves to the teeth. Greg wants to know, what do I suggest to get armed up with when everything is so freaking expensive? Well, Greg, I got to tell you, man, this is where sacrifice comes in. You gotta make it work. You gotta make it work by any means necessary. Maybe you have a family. Maybe there's some outlying circumstance that takes up your money. Maybe something's getting in the way of that, but that's up to you. What do I suggest? Just figure it out any way possible. Any way possible. Yeah, I mean, what else? What else is there to say? I'm sorry if you're, to you personally, Greg, if you're in that type of situation, but that's my answer. I had to stop. I had to pull a full stop on the discussion here to just answer that. I glanced over and saw that. So,
hey, even Christ said, if you want to believe, whether you believe in the historicity of the dude existing or not, he said, sell your cloak to buy a sword.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right. So do what you got to do to arm. If you're not armed at this point, I mean, Greg, you should have been armed, my friend. But I get you. If you're a little late to the party here, it's all good.
He might be like some of us were a while, like sometime in our past, where this might be something where it's coming to his attention and it's just a light's going off and he's like, oh shit, you're right. I'm behind. I got to get with it. Where do I start? That
It's
might
all
be
good.
where
I'll
he's
tell
at.
you what, bro. Get yourself a fucking shotgun, right? Like, if you ain't got I would recommend getting yourself a fucking high capacity, semi-automatic rifle for sure. An AR-15, they have cheap ones. Those are your best bet. But if anything, just to get armed, shotguns are bad. I love my 12 gauge, dude. My 12 gauge Mossberg.
Yeah.
Get that, and they're cheap, dude. They're cheap.
They are.
Yep, and get a sidearm as well, because you can't. I have a 12 gauge, and I'm not going to go through what I have. It's frankly nobody's business. But I learned that having a rifle and a shotgun is great, but having a sidearm is like the icing on the cake, like the cherry on top.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, it's ideal. It's ideal.
Like
I'm just saying,
how many
about price wise and in the
like
time crunch now.
How many
Yep.
guns should you have? Well, how big of a safe can you buy?
Yeah.
Like,
How many
you know, and
people
then
are
fill it.
near you that you would have to arm if shit
Right.
pops
Like
off?
the
You know?
And
that story of the guy that got caught with like not caught, but like something happened and it turned out he had like 50 semi-automatic weapons and they're like, why do you need 50? And he goes, because there's 49 other people around me who don't have them. and it's like, God damn, that's fucking great. That's a
right.
They
awesome.
just answer, well, it's none of your fucking business. Because
Right.
that's
Yep.
Right, exactly. But you know, having having that kind of story out there is like brings a smile to my face. Like
oh hell yeah.
you know, even if it's not true, like that's a badass motherfucker. You
Right.
know, like because there's 49 other people around me who don't have them. Amen.
You know,
But like what kinds, you know, 9mm, very common ammo, 22s, very common ammo.
Yep.
You know, it's like and those ammunition, those calibers, those aren't very everything's expensive right now, but it's not those aren't the most expensive. I would avoid 300 blackout. That's probably one of the more
Okay.
expensive ammos right now.
You got a
like a 12
semi-automatic rifle. You could
12
get it.
gauges are very common. You know, so there's a lot of it out there. So, you know, 12 gauge, 9mm, 22, 5.56, you know, that these are, you know, kind of rudimentary calibers. Get an AR.
You could still I'm sorry to cut through. You can still find good deals in bulk ammo online.
That's true.
By
Yeah.
the way, still out
Yeah.
there.
I would just try to keep in mind too, like the idea. I've got brass knuckles. I've got bear
True.
mace. I've got a knife.
Yep.
that I
Sword.
can, you know, like
Swords,
they can
knives.
just keep on you at all
Absolutely.
times. So, because like you're not always. I mean, I guess if you're gonna carry your
Don't
gun
make
with
me
you
start
all the
pulling
time,
shit out now
that's one
online,
thing, but,
dog.
I always, if I was when I was around out a lot, whatever, I always had my brass knuckles in my pocket. And dude, if you ever put on a real pair of brass knuckles, it's like
It's heavy.
you're like, dude, I could fucking kill someone.
Deadly, dude.
Oh yeah.
With these
Deadly
things.
as fuck.
Dude,
Absolutely.
like I don't know, like I always envision if somebody pulls a gun on me and they're anywhere within like lunging range, I'm just gonna fucking lunge on it. Like I'm not gonna like stand there and be like, oh whoops, or this shit you see in movies where they're like the gun's like this close. It's like, dude, I would never let that stand. I
Right.
would have to grab at it because I just know I can do it. And so if I've got that, and like that's just part of who I carry around with me. And I got like a fucking death beater and I could put it on my knuckles and like they're not gonna get hurt no matter how hard I swing. And it's gonna kill. Like you can I punched brick walls with them on. I'm like, damn, dude, that's crazy. So like anyway, I'm just saying it doesn't have to be a gun. If you need something right now to make yourself just have a little bit more confidence. Right. Okay, I know that I just won't. Like if 3 dudes come up on you and you got brass knuckles, they're gonna wish they had.
Someone's getting knocked the fuck out.
Chances are, yeah. Chances are 2 of them are gonna run away.
Holy shit, he's got something. Run. You know what I mean? Like.
Right.
So I
yeah, it ain't just about guns, my dude. Like Army, get a sword, dude. They got some badass fucking swords to have, like especially for home invasions. Oh man, I got a Spartan looking fucking sword. That shit is badass, dude.
Yeah.
Go get a claymore and unite the clans.
Yeah. Silver metal ball bearing that's monkey fist wrapped with paracord, and it's on a little keychain. And that little thing, if you whap, you're like, wow, dude, this would really wound someone too. I got all sorts of little cool devices that are like,
oh yeah,
you know, like you think Bruce Lee. It doesn't always have to be a gun. Yes, you want a gun eventually, but like
ideally, my friend, get a fucking get an AR-15. Like AKs, I love AKs, but get an AR-15. You could Smith & Wesson M&P Sport. Look that shit up. Yep. Fucking very affordable. I don't really know where it's at now because of the great reset and inflation, but
last I checked,
yeah,
the M&P, the M&P that you're talking about was around my area was around $1,100, full setup, scope, everything. You know, mid-range.
So
scope.
it went up for sure because it used to be a little cheaper than that.
And definitely become familiar with it because regulated means that you are familiar, that you know what you're doing. Know your differences between squib rounds, between a hang fire, know your, the 4 basic, gun safety rules, like know your target and what's behind it. Don't aim at anything that you are not willing to destroy, like you got to know these things. Like,
it's not just arming yourself and it ends there.
Yeah.
Do your fucking homework and practice.
Right.
Absolutely. It's no joke. That shit is a major responsibility and you need to take it fucking seriously.
You got to
Absolutely.
know what you got to know exactly what to do when the inevitability comes about that it jams up on you. You got to quickly do away with a jam, you know,
Yep.
and like what to do when like I said, when like a hang fire happens. That's no joke. You don't want to fuck around with a hang fire for sure. Like it's about being regulated. That's what a well-regulated militia is that you are familiar with the arms that you are carrying. That's
Yep.
and that you know, to the very least, the basics when it comes to safety.
Yeah.
Because you do
How to
not.
hold it properly, how to load, unload, break it down, clean it.
Yes.
There's while it's still up there, there's a lot of good fucking channels on YouTube to watch that teach you a whole lot of shit about it. Whole lot of
And
shit.
honestly, when you're looking for a firearm, right, go into the store. Don't be timid. Ask
Yeah.
questions. They love that shit.
Oh,
When
those
you go
guys
in
went to
and
like firearm college.
they're waiting for
Oh.
somebody to come in and be new, you know, a
Yep.
clean slate that they can help learn. I have a gun store near me that actually just opened up an indoor firing range, and they offer training. They offer basics, you know, pretty
Cool.
good and everything. So keep an eye out for some kind of opportunity like that. I'd say that's some good advice right there. Look for a gun range. Like typically a gun range will offer some sort of class where you pay X amount of dollars and you go in, and for X amount of dollars you get to learn about handgun training, and then there's another class for rifles and long range and shotguns and short range and, you know, everything in between. So there are a lot of avenues that you can explore, and you know, everything these days is just a click away. You do a quick internet search and type in your area, zip code, whatever, and boom, 20 miles away, there's a place exactly like what I'm talking about. And you can go there. I'm telling you that with like when you go into a gun store, these guys are waiting for somebody to come in and ask these types of questions. They love it. They eat it up. They want nothing more than that, you know?
Mhm.
So you gotta, it's another barrier, mental barrier that we need to take upon ourselves to break down where, yeah, you want to feel like you're confident, right? But you gotta step aside from that and just be like, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone.
You'd be like, I don't know
You know?
shit. Teach me.
Exactly.
And that is so happy because then they don't, because they get so many people that come in and are like, yeah, I mostly know what's going on, but like, and then they'll try to like weasel information out of them, pretending they know.
Yeah.
Be like, you're fucking retarded. Please teach me. You know what I mean? And
Well-
they'll be like, okay, they'll feel bad for you, and then they'll treat you nicely. Like, it's yeah.
Bro, I talked my brother into getting armed. I mean, in his fucking 30s, and he moved out to Arizona, and he was like, you know, he's like, I went to the gun store, and he's like, I see like high school girls with their dads in there cocking back fucking shotguns and like trying them out. He's like, I was like intimidated as fuck. He's like, here I am, I don't know shit about shit, and these little girls, like, you know, yeah, don't. I mean, those are really the coolest motherfuckers to talk to too. So,
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't be
I would say
intimidated,
do
for
it now, man, while you have the opportunity still, man, before shit really gets bad, you know. And just in case. And like I said, there's very affordable shotguns you can have, like just for home defense. And I would go on the battlefield with a fucking shotgun too, dude. You know, I mean, you don't have to know how to. You don't have to be a great shot. You're blowing someone to pieces if you're hitting them with a fucking 12 gauge.
Yeah, it's got good
But
spread.
yeah, I mean,
It's all about the spread.
paper targets used to be confetti at the range by the time I was done.
Mhm.
But and which is a shame because now I have mad ammo. I will not waste it on the range. Like that shit's as good as
No.
gold to me nowadays, you know. And it's
Yeah,
just,
and even if society does break down, like things like ammunition, like these things hold intrinsic value. So I mean, we're going to see that kind of, you know, it can turn that way. So I mean, that's ammo being expensive is it's no surprise, you know.
Yeah.
Especially like this is another facet of gun control that gets largely overlooked, is the raising of the prices and stuff like that. It's another aspect of gun control like that.
Mhm.
Like I said, largely gets overlooked. where they make things more expensive, it turns people off from buying them. That's kind of how we've been trained to operate, is we see a price tag and we go, or we go, okay, that's doable for me, or I can't afford that. That's gun control. It's not always about taking the arms away from people. It's preventative measures of preventing you from getting them into your hands. So that's gun control. So, I mean, we want to fight back against that. Well, the best thing to do is to like say, okay, whatever price you put on it, I'm going to find a way to get it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's gonna and that doesn't matter
Sacrifices,
to me.
friend.
Yeah, that's where sacrifice comes in. There's another point that I was going to try to get at. You know, just get armed to the teeth, because you know what, like, yeah, deer, they do wear Kevlar vests. I mean, you can just tell right away that like no one's ever been hunting before if they think deer don't wear Kevlar vests. Every deer I've ever seen in my life, they have a Kevlar vest on. So yeah, that's why I need what I need. Yeah, duh, you
Right.
fucking morons. So yeah. Anyways, like, I'm glad that we could help you out, Greg. That's great, man. But yeah, at the end of it,
It's 11:11.
you motherfucker, it is. I was just talking to somebody earlier today. I was talking to Sean earlier today about 11:11.
I see it so much. It's crazy, dude. I see so many numbers now, like in the clocks, like just patterns, like constantly. Like I'll literally look at a clock and I'm like, wow, did that really just happen again? Like, and I'm not trying to look. I'm glancing by it and I'm like, wow, really? It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Like when you start looking, and it's not that I'm looking, it's that I'm noticing. I'm aware now.
Yes.
So it's like, wow, dude, the universe is speaking to me all the time. And the universe will speak to you all the time if you start opening your ears and noticing it, and then getting more subtle even with the meditation and relaxing and feeling it. My God, dude, like, see, again, here's where I a little disagree with earlier what we said, but I think the universe is very personal. And I think it's more of yourself that you're connecting to, but it's part of all the same thing. So there is that personal thing that the Christians like to talk about. I've experienced that. I don't think that's God, right? Like, but it's an aspect of God. It's a higher self of mine connected to the highest self of God. So it's a conduit system.
I'm not saying the universe in its totality is an impersonal force. The laws of morality,
right,
and the physical laws of the universe are not personal force. They don't give a shit what you do,
right,
what you say, or they just exist.
Yeah.
The way you interact with the universe itself and its operation.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like your best friend.
Like you said, it does speak to you.
Like
one last thing about firearms before maybe we go another direction. Just to close out that segment, owning a firearm is a serious responsibility. It is not to be taken lightly. The amount of power you're wielding in your hand is not to be taken lightly at all. And if you're wielding it, you need to know the differences between right and wrong. And you need to know, if you're going to use it to defend yourself, you need to know whether or not it's an appropriate. In my opinion, you need to really be aware of whether or not it's an appropriate level of action. Like, absolutely. This is not a talk about just whip it out whenever somebody maybe steps on your shoe, like that kind of shit. Or this is not like go out and, I mean, shit, I gotta say it, like,
trigger temper,
this is not like an area where I do not advocate for just unnecessary, like, violence. It's a measure of self-defense and knowing when you're actually defending yourself against somebody who is trying to kill you or worse, because there are things in this world that are worse than death, in my opinion. I am in no way, shape, or form telling anybody to go and get a gun and go and do heinous crimes. Frankly, in this day and age, like, yeah, you don't do it. Don't get one to defend yourself, become familiar with it, and practice safety no matter what. Like, for real,
If you think you think you might get into a weird situation too, call a cop, dude, and ask him. Because I did that one time. I thought I had a knife on me, and this dude got in my face, and I didn't pull it or anything, but I was thinking about it. Like, what if I had? And he was crazy. He would have called the police, and then I was like, man, what if the cops had been called, and what if I had pulled my knife? I called the cops when I got home. I said, when is it okay for me to pull my knife on someone? And they were like, what? And I'm like, if I'm in a situation and dude's coming at me and I got a knife to defend myself, when am I going to get in trouble for pulling my knife or not? And her answer was, the cop that was speaking to me, she's like, it's up to the officer on the situation at that moment every single time. There is no rule. I was like, okay.
Well, I think in the situation arises,
at least where I was,
like, fuck the legality of anything. You know,
Well,
if
sure,
you
but
Right.
that
If
was
you
just
think
a-
your life is in danger, then you protect your life at all costs.
Right, but
All I'm
I
saying is
didn't
that
know.
I'm not advocating that anyone goes and gets themselves a firearm and then just goes willy-nilly about
Oh,
and
well, this
flat,
whole
you know,
shit,
like,
all our body of work is to advocate the exact opposite of that. We're just
right.
saying arm yourself for self-defense, you know. But
Yep.
again, that's why it's important to understand natural law principles and objective
Mhm.
morality. And I think once you do get your hands on a firearm, my dude, and you go to the range to practice and you feel the power that you're holding, like, you'll build the respect and you'll understand the responsibility that you have owning a firearm, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Squeezing that trigger, you do realize, you go, wow, this is real stuff.
No joke. Shit is no joke. It's loud and it's fucking powerful. And it'll fucking do some damage for real.
I still remember the first time I ever did for like pop off for the first time, and I think I was like 11 years old, 12 maybe, and it was like bang, and I was like, wow, and I looked at my dad, and he looked back at me, and he's like, oh yeah. And it was just like, yeah, and I just bow 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 bow, and you know, he goes, damn boy, you fired that the first time better than I did the first time, and I was like grinning from ear to ear.
Right.
And then, you know, then like one time we were out just like skeet shooting, and he's like, if those were pheasant, we'd be eating good tonight. You know, I know that you guys are you know, you don't eat meat.
You
I do.
immoral bastard.
I'm an immoral piece of shit. I know. I admit it. It's wrong.
I
know
just
it.
recently got into my veganism kick, and I'm not fully there yet, but I'm working my way, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, we all start someplace.
Dude, I watched the movie Earthlings.
Me
And
too.
That was when I was like, oh, I can't do it anymore. That was only like a month and a half ago. But when I saw that, I was like, wow, dude. I mean, I knew it was bad. I knew what I was in for when I was putting the movie in, but I was like, I didn't know what I was in for. I was like, I can't do that anymore. I'm not.
God damn it! That movie tortures me every time. Every time
horrendous.
I look, like, dude, I'm on some like Avatar shit where like every single time I'm like saying a little prayer, saying thank you, and like knowing just what happened.
So sorry. Over
Yeah.
Like,
oh,
you know,
yeah. God, it's so. Yeah, that's all I can do
you
is
know.
say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Dude,
It's
like, when
tough.
I was putting the slides together or the images together for that podcast, I like went down the rabbit hole of where the images were leading me and kept clicking on like worse and worse, and I had to walk. I cried, dude. I'm not hand to God. I walked away. I went in my bathroom and leaned over my sink and I cried like a baby. We are a fucking sick species, dude. Humanity is a soul sick species collectively, and it's some fucking man. I just like these innocent beings, like certain images of them like looking up in like just shock at what the person is doing to them, like, you know, yo, that shit fucking breaks my fucking heart, dude. And I don't want no part of that. People can believe what they want. I'm not calling anybody moral bags of shit. Go do whatever you fucking want. And you know, you want to make excuses for yourselves, keep doing it. I don't want to contribute to that as long as I'm here. And as long as the option stands for me between a plant-based diet or in a carnivore diet, I'm going to continue to eat the plant-based diet. That's it. When that option's taken off the table, like I said in the show, I'll do whatever the fuck I got to do. Reluctantly.
Yeah. Survival is one thing, but like when you can survive on plants, it's like, you know, let's do that. You know, like let's do that.
Right. And like the amount of like, think about it, like the amount of land that's used for factory farming and everything. Like if we were to like take that part out of our diets, that land could be used to produce like the vegetables. Like this day and age, like the amount that we know about agriculture in this day and age is like It's
Ridiculous.
like, I know it seems kind of weird to say it this way, but like we've never known more than we know today, right?
Absolutely.
And tomorrow we might know just a little bit more, and then the next day more and more and more. It just keeps building on itself, right? And like to think that like we still have to. So for the record, I'm in complete agreement with the vegan lifestyle, the vegan diet. I I make these points about how, you know, perhaps the argument could be made that that it's not excusable to be eating meat, but uh, perhaps we should be doing more work with our own species before we go and, as a species, have the focus on other species, right? If we can't stop hurting each other as humans, how can we really expect to stop hurting animals?
There's a
Now,
flip
that's
to that
not.
though, because you could come at it the other way too. And I agree. I hear what you're saying too, but then you could
Mhm.
look at it like, okay, we don't know how to treat beings of lesser intelligence, innocent, you know, creatures. Like, then how can we treat each other morally? But
Yeah.
then again, at the end of the day, to me, it doesn't matter as long as we're moving in the right direction. You know, like
Right.
if we got to get right with each other first, or we got to get right with the animal, it don't matter to me.
Yep.
Let's just push things in the right direction. Everyone can sort their shit out as they go along, you know. And I got into this. I'm not gonna mention any names. He's probably watching right now, but I got into it recently with a buddy of mine, good buddy of mine, and we was trying to make some arguments on the contrary, you know, for carnism, um, and I just said, and this is what I say to people all the time, like, look, we could get into the health benefits or how harmful meat is, or and the health benefits of a vegan diet, and the moral perspective and all this other shit, the science of it. But at the end of the day, you know, in your heart of hearts, what's right. You know, if you're not going to lie to yourself, you ask yourself what you feel, you know, if what you're doing is right or not, and just go with that. Go with what you feel in your heart, you know. And if you're
Mhm.
someone who is in tune and claims to be awake, like, you know what's up, you know what's right, and you know what's wrong. You
Yep.
know.
Yep. That's why when I saw that show, and like I hadn't even really ever thought about veganism in the terms of morality until Passio brought it up, and then I went, "Wow, yeah, that's interesting." I just hadn't thought about it, and then he mentioned that show Earthlings, and I was like, I don't even need to watch that to know that he's right, you know. But then I went ahead and said, yeah, I should watch it just to really jolt myself into that, like that push I need to like really change my diet, and it worked. I didn't watch but a third of that movie, maybe not half for sure. I had headphones on, and I would just be like, nope, I'm not watching this, and I'd leave the headphones on. I couldn't even
Me
listen to
too,
some
dude.
of it, dude.
Me
The
too. I didn't
circus
watch the
shit,
whole
the
shit.
circus stuff, and all the animal testing, I wouldn't watch. I didn't see one bit of it, dude. I couldn't. I was like, I can't imagine that we take those animals and fucking do things to them and be like, yeah, it only fucked them up a little, so I guess we can't use that as shampoo. Like, wow, dude.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you watch something like that and not know that's fucking wrong? It's evil. It's not
It's
right. It's not
pure
right.
Right.
evil. It's evil. It's like we're hurting things, man. It's just, and like you said, they look up to us like, oh, it's the smart ones. They'll be nice.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my
No,
God, they're being ruthless.
Hmm.
like
Wow.
taking a baby calf away from like what's the difference of doing that to a human being? Like, yo, that's just, oh my God, man. It really is. It's fucking, it's really fucked up. It's really sad, and that shit breaks my heart. And we got a long way to go in order to get right on this planet, man. We really do. And again, I'm not calling anybody a moral bags of shit for continuing to eat meat. Just like James, he acknowledges it and he admits it. Great, that's it. End the conversation. Now, what he chooses to do with that, now that he knows and understands it, that's on him. Just don't fucking, if we get into the conversation about this shit, don't sit there and try to justify it to me in any way. Because I don't care what you believe. I know you're wrong. You know, and like, it's not my opinion. It's not my
Yeah.
opinion on it. I know it objectively
Yeah.
because I know what right behavior is. I know what wrong behavior is. I don't believe it. I know what it is. I discovered it. It's objective. It exists independently of what you and I believe or think or feel. You
Right.
know, but at
And
least James is
like
real as fuck about it, and he'll admit it. You know, and he
it comes
admits
back down to like doing what you can when you can. and working on the things that are harder over over time to make it so you actually accomplish the goal and it's done, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you mentioned, zoos and circuses and stuff like that. Like, we don't go to the zoo anymore. There's
Right.
one like within an hour from my house we went to, and like pre like pre Earthlings for me, right?
Right.
And I watched Earthlings. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. Well,
Yeah.
why not? Because they're tortured. That's
Yep.
just torture. And I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an animal lover and go and watch that. I'm not going to do it. I eat animal flesh, I will, but the significant drop off of it in my diet since then, like, is like I used to I used to have more meat on my plate than anything else. And now it's like the exact opposite way, where it's like instead of the X amount I have, it's like the ratio has been flipped.
Cool.
And I mean, it's
Excellent.
about progress, right? Even
Mhm.
even with, back to full circle. Wow, this is amazing. Like, even with drug abuse, progress, not perfection, right?
Yep.
So even with a
Yep.
dietary thing, it can even be looked at as an addiction. And it's like
Oh, it sure is.
Well,
progress,
that's what it is for
you
sure.
know?
Oh, yeah, it fucking is.
So like it's about progress, not perfection. And even some of the most outspoken people about the dietary stuff will even say, like, hey, like, don't overdo it. Take it slow, because you're gonna fail if I just woke up tomorrow and I was like, nope, never again. Most likely I'm going to fail in that endeavor.
Absolutely.
Anything worth doing is worth the time it takes to do it. And like that's something that I, in my heart of hearts, know that it's like, okay, I have to take my time with this, and I have made significant progress in this mission of not ingesting the harm, because that's what it's about. Like, you mentioned also about animal testing. How do you get away from that? So what do we do? Like, we have to recognize that, like, there are aspects of this that are damn near impossible to get away from for an average person of average intelligence, like, average lifestyle, right? But there are possibilities for everybody clear across the board, and that's the diet. That's the diet, where it's like, when it comes back down to it, it's about ingesting that harm. You're taking it in yourself, right? It's not about the shampoo so much as it is about the meat on your plate, right? So that's something that I think some focus should be put more on, is about the ingesting of the harm, right? That's
And I
done to
think
these
that you're
poor.
gonna, now that it's in your mind and your conscious, that's on your conscious, and it's speaking to you. You're gonna do it, dude, because it's only gonna get louder and louder, and you're
Yeah,
only gonna progress more and more.
yeah.
Uh,
It's like to me, what it's been is like, all right, break it down into like types of meat. It's like, okay, I get rid of that type. Like fish. All right, and I don't eat fish anymore. Okay, a few months down the road, start weaning off of another type. Right, just a little progress here and there, and I'll get there. You know.
Absolutely. And it's and look, I try to not buy animal products as well. Like my belts and not leather, my shoes. And do you know how like much of a pain in the ass that is to look for work boots that are fucking vegan, and environmentally friendly and vegan, and fucking, out of my way digging online for fucking mad long to try to find a decent pair of affordable fucking vegan work boots that I could do construction in, and every deodorant and shampoos like not animal tested, like my couch is in leather. I do what I could. I'm not like over fucking bored with it, but I'm conscious on things that I purchase, what I
Yeah.
wear, what I consume. you know um
But one
you do
thing that
that
you can directly control every day of your life is what
what
you're
you're
taking
eating.
in,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's a big part of it. That's like the ritualistic side of it, where it's like you're ingesting that harm, you're ingesting that wrong, and you're becoming it. It's
Mhm.
literally a part of you,
Simulating
because
that shit.
like, because
Yep.
you've ingested it, it's literally a part of you. It's what is animating you. It's that your body's taking it in and converting it to energy, So your energy is your energy is that of harm. It's that
Yep.
of immorality. So, that's why the
That will affect
dietary
your
thing is
consciousness.
so, yeah, that's why the
Yep.
dietary side of it is so huge, is because you are what you eat. Like that it's not just some crazy saying that's funny to look at a commercial, and all of a sudden the guy turns into a freaking, glob of grease. Like it's like, or remember that commercial back in the day where they're like, you are what you eat. And then there's like a guy that's like a giant egg, and then there's another dude that's a giant vagina, and then there's another dude that's like a fucking whatever, walking around. It's like going up an escalator, and it's like, okay, cool. But like, no, it's true. You're ingesting that harm, and you're ingesting that immorality. Like hey, you're a part of it, a bigger part of it than if you're using a shampoo. You know what I mean? Like, like it's different. So
Yeah.
I think that's,
Your energy. You are conscious energy, vibratory energy. I mean, it's
yeah,
just I broke it down in that show to the best of my ability. Taking in that negative death energy, that's going to combine with your energy, and it's gonna, you're gonna assimilate that energy into your fucking being. That's gonna have effect on your physiology and your psychology. There's no question about it.
Yep.
There's no question about it. Well, so what do you think you're better off with? Piece of fruit or a dead pig, or a dead cow?
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's a touchy subject, my friends, but
Yeah,
yeah,
It is.
it's pretty easy to figure out, I think, once you just are honest with yourself, though.
exactly. That's it. It's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Just be real. Just be real with yourself. Don't fucking try to come at me with excuses and justifications and science. You know, just sit with yourself and ask yourself what what do you feel is the right thing to do, and you'll hear that voice if you're being honest.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's a lot of different arguments in there, and it's like you're right. It's like a highly divisive topic. You're right, and it creates a lot of infighting too, which is
Yeah.
like, which is why part of what I try to focus on with like just being like, okay, guys, if this is going to cause infighting, why don't we just step back and drop the topic for just a minute, and we can all agree that the harm that we're causing each other, we can all agree on that.
Mhm.
So let's be agreeable for a minute, and then we can come back to that. Let's not forget about it, but let's kind of just move past it for just a minute. Let's focus on focus on the harm that we're causing each other as human beings. And if you can do the extra, like, well, maybe not extra, but if you can do 100%, then do 100%. But if you can only do 80, then let's focus on the 80 that you can do. And like, let's stop fucking hurting each other as a species, as human beings, and come back to that, because
All right.
that knowledge isn't going to go away, right? But it's going to be like not the primary focus for now. And I
No,
think
and there
this
should be
moment in
people
history,
putting that out along the
right?
way.
I
Speaking.
honestly think that at this moment in history, with like the turning point that we're at as a species, that we should really kind of refocus what our, priorities are. And we're moments away from all sorts of different, collapse here, financial collapse, brink of war, everyone hates each other, everyone's killing each other anyways. And like, the saying now is like, there used to be a Mason-Dixon line, but dividing north and south, but now that line's going right through the freaking kitchen table. Instead of the states north and south, it's the kitchen table. And
Hmm.
like, it's like grandma's kitchen. That's where the divide is now. It's like, guys, can't we just, I think it's a cul-de-sac that we get trapped in a little bit, where it's like, maybe, yes, it is right. Yes, we should not be harming other sentient beings. Absolutely not. But at this moment in history, are we really prioritizing correctly if that's our main focus, when there are people in costumes out there looking for the next opportunity to kick another guy in the head or choke out another dude on the street corner? Like, come on.
That's why, I only made one show about it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And because I felt like I wouldn't be serving the truth in its entirety if I did not speak on that.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm trying to drive home to people,
Yeah, for
But I
sure.
do state, when I try to explain what rights are to people, it's an action That
Mhm.
any action that does initiate harm onto sentient beings.
Right.
You
It
know,
can't be left out. That
has
part
to be
cannot
said.
be
It
left
has
out because that's the truth.
Yep.
what a
We
right
wouldn't
is.
we wouldn't be serving the truth if we left that part out, which is exactly like, what I'm saying. I'm just kind of shedding light on this idea that's been rattling around in my head. Call it mental gymnastics, call it whatever you'd like. Like, I'm trying to produce an excuse for me to continue doing what I'm doing. Like, no, I really don't see it that way. I mean, I'll argue that point and everything, but I really do think that the light does need to be shed on this one little area where it's like, are we really prioritizing correctly when it comes to this, you know? But yeah, if we're going to speak the truth in that part about sentient life, sentient beings, it cannot be left out at all, ever. It just can't, you know?
And oddly, like I was telling you guys before we started recording, like I received nothing but positive, strangely positive feedback from that episode. I didn't get one negative fucking remark or email from that episode. It was all positive. Like, it was very well received, and that was very encouraging. But the next episode I put out, the roundtable I did with you and Sean and Ivan and Francesco about atheism and the anarchism. Whoa, did I get some shit on that, dude? I had to just
Anarchy.
like, I
Yeah.
never disabled my comments on BitChute before. I didn't even think there was a tab to do that, but I had to. They just started getting diarrhea written all underneath the fucking video. Like, oh, hell no. And that's not because I don't want to debate people. I don't want to fucking, I'm anti-free speech. No, that's my fucking channel. Those are my videos. That's my content that I put in a ton of work to produce. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I don't want that shit underneath my videos. You're fucking garbage, your verbal diarrhea fucking being sprayed all in the comment section underneath my video. Like, nah, dude, nah. Take that shit. You disagree with what I say? Start your own channel. Put your fucking real name out there. Put your fucking face out there. Put your voice out there. And then come at me. Otherwise, if you're going to take the time to try to leave a comment, you're not going to have the ability, because that shit is shut off on my YouTube channel, BitChute channel, and I'm about to shut it off on my Odyssey channel. I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm not talking about opinions here, the shit that I talk about. It's not opinions. If I have a theory or an opinion, I'll leave the comment section open for people to talk about. But yeah, atheism, dude. That's where I got a ton of shit from. So-called anarchists. All right, coming at me about fucking about atheism and the believing in a creator. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow.
To be anarchist, but don't understand that rights are inherent in nature itself. Unbelievable.
Right.
Yep.
And it's like, how would we ever even, like, how would we ever even get to the point where anarchy would be accomplished, right? If we ignore that side of, like, inherent rights,
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
it wouldn't happen. You're
Yep.
not going to get there. You're just
It
not.
can't, because there's no footing for you to even start your argument on. You
Yep.
understand now? It can't happen, motherfucker. It is so stupid to me, and that infuriates me, and I know it does with you too. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and it's just it's funny in a sense, but it's fucking frightening. Like, yo, you motherfuckers are claiming to be anarchists, talking about that we need to abolish the state to be free. Why? You don't believe in the existence of objective morality and natural rights? What the fuck are you basing your argument on for why we should be free? Just because
Yeah.
you don't like having a government? Well, what if most people do? Then that's okay then, right?
Right. Like, okay, all right, so rights aren't, all right, hypothetical. Rights aren't inherent, right? Objective morality doesn't exist, right? You're an anarchist and this is how you think. Okay, we abolish the government. Success. Round of applause. Yay. Wake up tomorrow, they're gone. Okay. Objective morality and inherent rights, they don't exist. How are we going to keep them out? Like, how are we going to keep this small group of people that thinks that they can tell everyone else what to do? How are we going to keep them away?
or
You're not.
anybody from doing anything. And why should
Right.
you? Because there's no such thing as right and wrong. Everybody just go do whatever the fuck you want. Rape,
Everyone's gonna be
pillage,
running
you
around
know?
like chickens with their heads cut off. I know we were just talking about, but like the you know what I mean, the metaphor of chickens with their heads cut off. Everyone's running around. Oh my god, what do we do? It's that kind of mentality that even makes the government exist in the first place. You
Yep.
see what I'm saying? So like,
Yo,
you're like, okay, you get rid of the government. Yeah, something's gonna replace it. You're damn right, and it's gonna be people knowing the difference between right and wrong and choosing not to do wrong action.
Hmm.
and knowing that
Free
no one
will.
has the no one has the right to rule over anyone else, and no one has any authority over anyone else, then that can't it can't recreate itself. A government
Right.
cannot be reshaped or reformed after
Yep.
it's abolished and people understand their inherent natural God-given rights and their individual sovereignty.
It's like
Then it's
people
over.
saying,
Government's gone once and for all. That's the only way you're going to get there and achieve true freedom is you
right.
understand these principles.
People
You
say
know,
that they want people say that they want the freedom and everything like that, but they're not willing to do the things that it's going to take to get it and maintain it.
Yep.
And in order to maintain it, we can do the things that we got to do to get it. Sure. That part's probably easier than we think, but to maintain it, that's when the work comes in. And in order to maintain it, you need to recognize that there are inherent rights in the universe and that there's a difference between right and wrong, and it's objective. That difference is objective. It does not fucking care what you think of it. It exists whether you like it or not. And that's just the facts, Jack. Fuck
that's
it.
what the
Like,
whole concept of fucking freedom is based on. The fact that you're endowed with unalienable, unwavering, natural, inherent God-given rights. The right to do as you please as long as you don't initiate harm onto other sentient beings. No one has the right to infringe on your ability to do as you want as long as you're not initiating harm onto others. That's so you are inherently free. You have the right to be free if you're not initiating harm. That's what the concept of freedom is fucking based on. If
Yep.
not, then what is it based on?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
it has to be based on absolute truth, really, just truth. So, yeah, it's I think it's a pretty I think it's something people ultimately know. They just want to argue with because it makes them
They don't
realize
want
they
to
have
accept
work.
that
They have
there's
work
a
to do.
creator. You know?
Yeah, they just have work to do ultimately, and they just don't want to do it, so they just refuse to believe it, and then that just makes their fallacious existence easier for them to palate.
I mean,
Ultimately.
ultimately, atheists aren't really atheists anyways because they're statists and their god is government.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
fucking,
they have a religion of sorts. It's maybe not
yeah.
like belief in God per se, but like they have a religion for sure, multiple.
Oh, yeah, they have
Yeah.
they have a
With
god. They have a god. It's called a dollar bill, and
Yeah, right.
they have their priests. It's called the government, and they have their
oh,
temple. That's called the State House in D.C. Like the White House is their temple. Like you know what I mean. Like the Capitol building, that's their temple. You know, they go there. They can touch it. They can think that it's real. It's all the same. It's the same. Government is a religion. Money is a religion.
money
It's
is a
their god.
religion.
Yeah,
Because
sure is.
You know?
most of these atheists in the anarchist community are in caps, and
Right.
money is their god.
Right.
Money is their god.
Right. So even like even their argument has holes in it, more holes than the fucking Titanic, than a brick of Swiss cheese. Like it's
Yeah.
like it's
Bro,
ridiculous.
we see people like big names that have followings, right? Like in this community that are propagating subjective morality, bro. Oh, kill me now. Kill me now. Are you
Nah,
fucking kidding me?
you don't get
But
out
it's
that
just
easy.
like that's dangerous, bro. That's dangerous shit. Like, yo, you're not benefiting this movement at all. You are doing the exact opposite. You're fucking sending that shit in the opposite direction. You're keeping us in chains. You're keeping humanity in chains by propagating that fucking horse shit. By saying morality is subjective, bro. Then
Yeah.
why can't the state be legitimate then? Why? Why not? On what premise is it illegitimate then, according to you, if morality is subjective? They don't want to accept. They woke up to the fact, a lot of these people, that religion is bullshit. The cultural religions are horseshit, and were created or propagated and put forth for division and mind control. So then they're like, all right, fuck this shit. I don't believe in any God. They go to the total opposite end of the spectrum, which is atheism, and they become more relativists. They don't want to accept that there's a creator that installed fucking natural laws, inherent natural behavioral laws of consequence. But it's not this big mystical thing to try to figure out. It's just that it exists. These laws exist. They're inherent. They don't waver. You behave a certain way. Certain consequences are going to manifest as a result. How is that so fucking hard to comprehend? It's observable.
Yeah,
It's observable by the way you fucking behave. Sit back and observe. Populations. I put it like this to people. You have two populations, population A, population B. One is in tune with objective morality. They understand what right and wrong is objectively. They respect each individual's sovereignty and what their God-given rights are, and they don't tolerate wrong behavior at all. They don't tolerate that shit. They'll put it down however they choose to. They don't accept people running around and doing immoral shit. What kind of society will that population produce? It's going to produce one that's going to be orderly, harmonious with each other, with nature, and will be free and prosperous. Where if you take population B, that society does not understand objective morality. Don't believe it, don't care to understand it either, right? Thinks morality is subjective. They support and condone all this kind of immoral shit. They believe certain individuals have more rights than others, the right to rule in particular. Like what kind of society do you think like that population is going to produce? It can not produce anything other than a society which will be chaotic, out of balance with each other and with nature, will be enslaved and will destroy itself ultimately if it keeps going down, the same trajectory. The outcomes cannot be any different than those two. Why though? Because it's law. It's just the law of this fucking universe that you're going to get one or two of those fucking outcomes depending upon how the aggregate of the society behaves. That's it. Ain't no big mystical fucking shit to figure out. It's that fucking cut and dry and simple. I don't understand why that's that hard for people to comprehend. We want to become and remain free. We got to come to understand objective morality and behave morally in the aggregate. End the fucking story. That's your answer to all of it, to all the New World Order fucking system of slavery, all the nonsense that's going on. That's the fucking key. That's the answer. That's the solution.
Yep. Well, hey guys, I'm gonna have to take off here in a little bit, so I don't know what you guys want to do, but I've had a fantastic time chatting with you guys. This has been really cool.
Yes, it has. It really has.
Yeah.
So
are you guys going to keep going for a while, or do you want to end it up here in a few minutes, or what do you want to do?
What fucking time is it right now?
Fucking quarter to midnight.
It's getting close to midnight. Yeah.
we've been going for almost 3 hours.
Almost.
Long time.
Yeah, it's been a good.
It was good though.
Chat,
Very good, man. Really cool.
I enjoyed it, man. This is cool. Yeah.
Sure.
Getting to know you guys really ultimately, because I'd never really. I mean, I've seen your names around before. Joe, actually, I just met you, because James said something. I'd seen Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth and stuff around and just kind of seen it, but never really. I just don't have a lot of time to look at everybody's thing. But because you reached out to me, I was like, well, shit, yeah, I'll check it out. And then you said you invited Joe on, so I was like, well, I better learn about at least what he's talking about. So I picked your. I just kind of looked through your stuff and I was like, cool. Oh shit, he's got one here on the carnism. Perfect. You know what I mean? Like, we'll just see where he's at with that. And I was like, damn, dude, that's fantastic. Like, better than I could have said it. Like, I was like, wow, that's really great.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot, bro. I really appreciate
if I could have said it like that, I was like, man, that's kind of, yeah. So right on. So
thank you, dude. Yeah, it was great fucking meeting you, bro. Great talking to you. You had a lot of great insight.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, James,
excellent.
You too, man. Like, yeah, I checked your stuff out too for the first time today, so it was good to meet both of you guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do what I can. I just need to, get into the pit.
Yeah, that's right. Get into the pit.
Get in the pit. That's it. Like, I'm just a guy that just had enough.
Yep.
And it's just, nothing else made sense. And all of a sudden it's just like, no, things started to click. And like, no, this is when I can, this is what I got to do. You know, I gotta use these computers, and I got to figure out a way to spread it. I mean, and this is kind of like in a way, this podcast is like kind of like a living memoir, you know. Like I have children, and maybe one day they have to get to know their old man in a way that they that they couldn't, and they can turn this on, and kind of get a better grasp at why I did some of the things that I'm gonna do in the future or whatever. Like I said, like a living memoir, kind of get it on tape, and like at the beginning of my podcast, I was kind of not asleep, but like I wasn't really big into natural law and anarchy per se, but I caught wind of it, and I was like, I listened and I learned, and I said to myself, you know what, like I'm going to continue learning, but I want to document it. I'm going to have people come on that can teach me, because I'm in this like, good place to learn. I'm going to get people to come on to teach me. And, then it's just like kind of like over the past like 6 months, something clicked. And like all of a sudden, like I'm in this position where I can start giving back, and I'm at that teachability bell curve, that we're familiar with, where it's like, teacher and student. It's like, that's kind of where I find myself these days. Like the best way to do it is to just have conversations, and to have these naturally occurring, points, like they come up and have conversations and stuff. Like I do give like presentations online and whatever, but like it's kind of rough around the edges, but like I thrive better in a social setting, bringing people together. This is like I think the second time where like a couple of people that had never met each other before got to meet each other on my show. And that just brings a huge smile to my face, like nothing else, It's like, wow, like cool. Cause you know what, like you guys might go on and do something together, and I can watch that. And
I hope we do. I hope we do.
Not like,
Yeah,
not like
definitely.
I gotta take credit for it, but I'll be able to sit there and smile and go, I introduced those guys. This is great,
Yeah.
Fucking
like
matchmaker over here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean by that, though. It is for sure cool when you can help people connect that end up whatever. It benefits everybody. Yeah.
Like Will Keller and Nathan Redette had never met before, but they met on my show.
Really?
And like, yeah, I hosted a round table, and I didn't even know that they hadn't met, but Will and Nathan come on, and Will goes, "Oh, Nathan, nice to meet you." And I'm just like, wait, what? You guys
right.
didn't? I'm like, wow, this is great. Like,
Yeah.
cool. Like I found this groove where I got like kind of a meeting place. And even if it's not like the meeting place, it's still kind of like cool to be able to sit around, and shoot the shit and kind of dissect these ideas, That's
Just have these conversations, bro. Put
Yeah.
out there to people, and
Yeah,
people
that's
start
what
to think about this shit.
It's all about growth. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then we get people, we get people in the live chat, sometimes it's not the greatest. A few weeks back, I kind of had to deal with it threw me off so bad. Oh my God. I didn't expect it. And I just looked down at the live chat, and I'm just like, whoa, just blindsided by this just absolutely disgusting like behavior in the chat. And I was just like, holy shit, like I can't believe this. And it threw me off. It ruined the whole fucking evening. And I have it on, I still published it. And like I'm freaking out, and like I'm just like, oh, this is not looking good for me, but I don't care. I'll publish it. It's not a big deal. And like, but no, man, I really appreciate your time, Johnathan. I know you got from listening, right? From listening to you speak, and how open you are with people on when they come on your show, and how it's genuine. And I figured, it would be a good voice to include in one of the chapters of my book here on A Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth. And I wanted to be able to bring you in and get to know you better, and not, and just to kind of be able to speak to you myself and everything, share ideas and whatnot, because I like your style on your show. And
Thanks,
and
dude.
my heart goes out to you, man. I'm sure that maybe we can meet again sometime soon and have a different type of conversation. But I feel what you're going through, the things that you mentioned on your show, and we're not looking to get into it here tonight because it is late. But
Yeah.
My heart definitely goes out to you, brother, and
I appreciate that.
you know, and you're a part of you're a part of the clan now. So you know, if you need anything, you got another person you could reach out to, and I'm just a couple of
Same
clicks
here, bro.
away, you know.
Right on. Well, I
Couple,
definitely appreciate that. Yeah, that's super
you know.
cool. And I will, you know what I mean? So now that we know each other, like I'll definitely I'll throw you what's up in Discord. I'll
Sure.
you know, we're all on the network, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, we're all in the crew. So yeah, it's all good.
All right.
Awesome.
Great. Well,
Fuck.
thanks for
And Joe, you know, of course, like, you fucking get out of here, fuck off. Just kidding.
Well, that's not nice.
Oh, come on.
What did I do?
Nah, but you know, I love you, Joe. But hey, you know, it is winding down. You're right. Shit, 3 hours. Christ, like that's awesome.
that's a good jam. Yeah, I didn't think we were gonna go that long, but we did it and it worked out. It was nice. It was good. So
Really cool.
yeah. Well, thanks, brothers. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
tell people where to find you other than the network, you know.
Yeah, so nothingnewnderthesun.us is my website. And if you go to my website, you can just scroll right down and you can see all my social media in a nice little condensed section right there. OneGreatWorkNetwork.com, Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, and Odyssey is actually where most of that's the one I pay attention to. I throw the other stuff on the other places for redundancy. And YouTube, I can't put almost anything there because they censor everything. So I mostly put things there that are like, I know it won't get censored, but YouTube is like I don't really pay much attention to it. Everything's on Odyssey. So
Right.
but
Awesome.
nothingnewnderthesun.us, that's where you can find it.
All right, I'll make sure to include a link in the show notes when I publish this tomorrow.
Cool.
And to that. And Joe, what about you, man? I mean, for everyone that isn't a long time listener, tell them what's up.
freedomforall.online. You could go there, fucking go to the drop down menu in the top left corner. You find my music, both of my podcasts. I have a solo podcast that I do by myself and a joint one that I do with my brother Ivan Oyola Jr. from freeyourmindaz.com, called Sanitizing the Insanity. What else? I got, like I said, I got a merch store with some dope, hard-hitting designs, tees and hoodies for men and women. What else? Yeah, just a ton of information on there for people to come to understand natural law better and objective morality, and just to understand the dark occult influence over the world, what the New World Order agenda is. A ton of information on there if you just scroll down. But yeah, you can find all my work at freedomforall.online. And yeah, I think me and James very soon have some big announcements as well coming. Some good work that's about to be put out there as well. But that's a topic for another discussion. But stay tuned, my friends.
Stay tuned. Stay
Got
tuned.
something big in the works.
Yeah. Motherfuckers gonna have their minds blown wide open. All right. Excellent, guys. Excellent. So, you know, as I end the show this evening, of course, one last thank you to my guests and, you know, to everyone listening out there. You know, it's time that we start taking action. It's time that we start to take responsibility for our actions and to maybe even stand up and say no more to some of the things that are seemingly out of our control that are being done to us. You know, and along that journey, we got to start showing each other some compassion along the way as well, you know, and maybe not some outright pacifism, but definitely some compassion along the way. You know, a little bit of love and understanding to maybe somebody that you might disagree with, you know, on the face of a topic, could really help things, could push things forward in a better way. So, you know, get out there and talk to somebody and, you know, suss out some topics and some, you know, some discussions and actually, you know, participate. But if all that good stuff doesn't work, like I say, arm yourself to the teeth and get ready because times could be getting rough in the future. Protect yourself and the ones that you love. And we'll always be here at A Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth to kind of help you along the way. My name is James Cordiner. My website is freeyourmindne.com. You've been watching or listening to A Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth. Thank you very much. Have a great night.